It's a Tuesday morning that God has blessed us with, and our sincere apologies for this time that we're starting the show. Our sincere apologies to you. Put the blame on yours truly. It's 5 more days to go for the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. Welcome to the AM show. Now, coming up shortly, we'll be serving you the news very quickly, and right after that, Muftar Nabil Abdullah will be serving you sports, followed by the news review. You know how we do it on a Tuesday morning. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. Dr. Wisdom Dogbe is a financial analyst. Now, two major issues we're bringing your way this morning on the AM show. One, we'll take you to the Supreme Court, which is set to deliver its ruling on whether 4 seats in Parliament can be declared vacant this morning. But the question is, will this ruling bring finality to the constitutional impasse that is threatening the very survival of this constitutional democracy in a matter that has attracted many varying opinions and occasioned a divide between the major political parties? We'll be getting you some scope on that. Where is the capacity of the state to meander through these uncharted waters? It is a straight fight between arms of government. We'll bring you details of that right here on the AM show. Also coming up, she has endured grueling dialysis treatments week after week, clinging to the hope of a brighter tomorrow. But hope is waning as we bring you a gripping story of Rosemary, who is living with end-stage kidney failure and her survival $25,000 away. Join us for details on that as she wonders whether she'll make it or not. All of these discussions we're having today right here on the AM show. But up next, stay with us for the news.
And the fear.
Let's head straight into the news, and in our first story, the Ghana Medical Association has called out its own members over rising cases of sexual harassment of patients. The GMA also reveals that a chunk of doctors are also involved in alcoholism and drug abuse. President of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Frank Serebour, raised these concerns at the 66th GMA Annual General Meeting, revealing that most victims, unfortunately, gave up on the prosecution of these cases of sexual harassment.
We have some health personnel who are involved in alcoholism, drug misuse, and abuse, which affect the quality of their lives. There has been, in extreme circumstances, reported cases of sexual harassment perpetrated by health workers. And yesterday, the Medical and Dental Council Registrar, Dr. Divine Baibala, told us that there are a lot of pending cases of sexual harassment even before the council. We have had cases where doctors have been badly discussed on radio shows and other media outlets. There have been several legal suits against health facilities, with the outcomes not being favorable to us as health workers. Indeed, sometimes we are left off the hook simply because the victims of our unprofessionalism choose to blame the witches and the wizards, as well as the fearful, for their predicament instead of taking on the system. So when we pray, we should pray for the witches and wizards. They are saving us. Ladies and gentlemen, professionalism should be our silent companion. It has to walk with us through our journey of working life. It should always manifest at every opportunity. I know I have painted a grave picture, but let us fortify our spirits against despair with curious agility and also balance our ambitions with acceptance. This will make us truly self-sufficient and grant us eternal freedom.
But these are not the only concerns of the GMA. Dr. Serebour also called a lack of commitment to the job, especially among junior doctors.
Let me ask, is professionalism in the health sector dwindling? Is there so much focus on greed and selfishness? Is there a lack of respect for colleagues and subordinates? Recently, the junior doctors are holding various forum or fora, and they are indicating that we are bullying them. Is it true? But at least all of us can attest to the escalation of lateness to duty, absenteeism, poor documentation, and also not dedicating enough time to our employers. People walk into the hospital at 9, by 12, they are walking out. You ask them, they say they are done. And yet they expect to be paid for working 8 hours at least in a day.
Now, advocacy think tank CDD Ghana is asking the Electoral Commission to resort to what they call proactive disclosure of information as part of efforts to ensure electoral justice. Now, with 25 days to the December polls, political parties, marginalized groups, and some individuals have raised concerns about the frequency, adequacy, and means of information disseminated by the EC. Delivering the keynote address at a public forum on access to information and elections, Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD, Kojo Asante, recommended to the EC the use of varying channels to disseminate information so the electorate would be adequately informed.
I want to start, first of all, with the EC website. I really wish there could be more that we can put on the EC website. It's going to become the focus of attention regardless because of election activities. And election day, of course, because of results. The EC has committed to publishing polling station results on its website, so that will be. But I think that it just in terms of voter and civic education, there's a lot that the EC website can do, but not in text format, as I was asking people where they get their information from. If it's not on what they call Snapchat or any of these things. So how is the EC reaching out in terms of its civic education? Because the statistics I just gave.
Now, the Director of Training at the EC, Dr. Srebo Kweku, has asked citizens to also play their part by visiting the EC's website for updates, especially as the general elections approach.
Please let us also be proactive, because I don't know, there were a lot of adverts. Those people in the media will tell you, we advertise, and so if you didn't hear, that means that maybe you are so busy at your work schedule. But once in a while, please once in a while get time for the media. With respect with the timetable, we came with the timetable since February, and it has circulated a lot. It has circulated a lot. So the issue is that there's no way we can be targeting the individuals that maybe you have to come to your house. It's not possible. So once in a while, the general one that will be sharing and the support of the media, there will be. So no matter how busy you are, once in a while, listen to the news and it will be done.
And the Center for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, a non-governmental organization, has donated solar-powered mechanized water systems to 2 senior high schools in the Upper East region to relieve the students of the challenges of access to water and promote good sanitation in the schools. Correspondent Albert Sori reports.
The beneficiary schools are the St. John's Integrated Senior High School in Navrongo and the Azem-Namwa Senior High Technical School in the Bongo district. Until now, the lack of water at St. John's Integrated Senior High School, which has a student population of over 1,500, significantly hampered teaching and learning and the overall well-being of the students. Similarly, at the Azem-Namwa Senior High and Technical School, students and staff said life on campus was very difficult due to the insufficient water supply. This school has a population of nearly 800 students and 40 staff members who all struggled to get water for their daily activities on campus.
We always suffer a lot to get water in campus. Sometimes we go outside the campus to fetch water, but outside there, they always harassed us with the girls. So it is always difficult for us to get water, to be able to go to class early, preps, and do other activities.
We depend on only one borehole, which sometimes got spoiled. We have to go outside and get water, which prevent us from our daily activities.
Help has, however, arrived as the Center for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, CWASH, a non-governmental organization, has donated solar-powered mechanized water systems to the 2 senior high schools. Each water system features a 3,000-liter water storage tank to ensure the availability of safe drinking water. The donation is part of the Wash in Senior High Schools project implemented with funding support from the Spear Foundation. The initiative aims to enhance the health and well-being of students and staff while fostering a conducive learning environment. Samuel Volashi is the project manager for the Center for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene.
This school has no water at all. The toilet facilities, they have some, but they cannot use it. We did a baseline assessment, what we got from them, some don't even bath because the water is not there. It's hampering the teaching and learning. It makes them come to class late. The girls, when they are in their menses, it's difficult for them to take care of themselves. And some even stay in the dormitory. And looking at this, we decided to just come in and then support them with the sponsorship of Spear Foundation of Switzerland. And we're going to rehabilitate all the toilet facilities for them as well, so that they can be able to use the toilet facilities, and then we end open defecation.
The students and administration of the 2 schools were grateful for the gesture. Ebenezer Tay is the headmaster of the Azem Namwa Senior High and Technical School.
This project will give us water 24 hours a day. Students will not have to go outside to look for water. They will be in their dormitories, and water will flow through the dormitories and they will fetch. And we hope this will reduce our time that is lost previously looking for water, and will improve our instructional hours. We have formed a committee, the WASH committee. They will be going around inspecting facilities. Anytime there is a problem, they will report to management, for management to take action.
For Joy News, Albert Sorry, Bongo.
Welcome to our business updates. In our first story, economist Professor Patrick Esuming has challenged government to harness its untapped resources to generate revenue domestically to refinance its longer-term development plans without relying on external donors. His call follows a warning by the French government saying it is now cautious in the manner in which it lends long-term loans to Ghana. Reacting to the development, Professor Esuming stated that it was about time Ghana looked within to finance its own projects.
It's important that, when it comes down to how to interpret, being cautious, you get a sense that it means that, there probably isn't going to be much coming. Now, I think that will increase the funding gap. Don't forget that in the current program that we are in with the IMF, we can only get concessionary loans. If you are non-concessionary loans, there are restrictions. So if those sources, there are hints that those sources are going to be limited, then it means that we have to think long and hard about long-term financing. But I think that is something that we should be doing anyway. We know that we cannot continue to depend on external funding for our development. It's something that should have been obvious to us anyway. It is just a confirmation of maybe something that we have been reflecting on. So it's now time for us to look within. And let's face it, there are many opportunities for Ghana to raise resources domestically for its development. There's so much untapped potential. So while it seems a little troubling to hear, it should also hint to us that now we have to put our house in order and look within to finance our longer-term development.
Let's now take our currency market. That's it for the AM News. The AM News Review is up next. We are joined by Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, and Wisdom Dogbe, a financial analyst. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time now for the news review right here, and we're joined by Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, and Wisdom Dogbe, a financial analyst. Let me say a very, very good morning to my guests. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm very well. We are on it, struggling, but we are pushing ahead.
What are you struggling with?
Well, the time that we have and then the things we have to do before 7 December.
I see.
I thought you were going to say we're all managing. Everybody's a manager now in this economy.
Which economy are we talking about? You live in America, I live in Ghana. Which
Ghana's economy, of course.
But you don't live in Ghana, so how can you be managing Ghana's economy?
It impacts me, Kojo.
How?
Come on, I have my life in Ghana. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it doesn't impact you, it impacts your family. Anyway, Ben, I hope you're well.
But are you suggesting, Kojo, that if someone doesn't find himself physically in Ghana, he or she wouldn't feel the pinch? People are sending remittances. People have pressure. People calling them every day. Charlie, this has come up. Iyabo and all that. Are you saying there's no impact on them?
You can use other words, but you cannot say that it impacts. You are feeling the pain of the. I mean, it's not your first go-to.
I am feeling the pain, Ankasa.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's
okay.
Your elephant.
All right, gentlemen.
Elephant me.
Yo, it's fine. It's fine. Let me start with your brief thoughts this morning. Wisdom, I'll start with you. Please keep it brief, crisp, straight to the point. What are your thoughts?
Ben, this morning I want to commend Vice President Dr. Bawumia for his foresight, in launching the credit scoring system for Ghana. I think this is very commendable, and it places our nation on a path to compete on the global stage. When it comes to credit, the way you can make credit widely available to us eligible citizens in the nation. The only problem is that the way this credit scoring system is launched, it is almost meaningless and less inclusive. And I worry that it may not have the right impact, as we've seen credit scoring systems in developed nations like here in the US, how it works. I say it is almost meaningless because a credit scoring system is not like launching a ride-sharing app, for example, right? And secondly, that by itself will not necessarily help improve the rate of non-performing loans in the financial sector. I believe there was a bit of a missed opportunity here in how this was launched, because a key part of successfully creating credit starts from land or property ownership. And I'll suggest that any effort to create credit scoring system without first fixing property rights so that these credit ratings can be accurate and inclusive, that effort is likely going to fail. We have to fix property rights first. Only then can a credit score accurately reflect the earning potential and the true credit worthiness of consumers.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. Kojo Poku.
Hi, thank you. We are in Ashanti region, basically getting ahead with the work that we are doing, spreading the message of hope and the bold solution. As you heard recently, Dr. Bawumia announced two very prominent policies, one being the slight adjustment in cocoa prices from 3,000 to 3,100 because Cote d'Ivoire also basically came up above our price. And Dr. has always said that if Cote d'Ivoire basically priced more than Ghana, the Ghanaian cocoa farmer will get a little bit more. So now cocoa price is 3,100, no longer 3,000. Then also, before, Cocoa Board was doing this farmers scholarship in secondary schools. But because now there's free senior high school, the new announcement is that all children of cocoa farmers will go to university with the cocoa scholarship. So children of cocoa farmers will go to university for free. But in that line of bold solution, Dr. Bawumia, when we were in the Bono region, Ghana, we do a lot of cashew. And if you look at the Bono area from Banda all the way to Wenchi, the South German North area, that area is cashew country. And when he went there, he told them that he wants the crop growing authority, the tree crop development authority, to behave and work like the cocoa board. So they are going to have a price mechanism for cashew. And in working with the price mechanism that is going to be in place, we are no longer going to allow foreigners to go to the cashew growing areas to exploit the farmers. There's going to be a produce buying company, which is going to be a Ghanaian owned. And the next season, in working with the Tree Crop Authority, in the next window, which starts December 15th, the price for cashew per kilo is going to be 13 cedis, which is about 5 cedis more than what it was in the last season. So it's a good news, and the bold solution is working for the people of the Bono area. So they can be rest assured that nobody's going to come and exploit them, and they're going to get 13 cedis per kilo for cashew.
Let's get into the papers now, and we start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Standoff in Parliament, solution rests with Speaker Dafeamekpor asserts 4 MPs vacant seat controversy. Supreme Court delivers judgment today. Vote for competence above other considerations. NCCE boss to electorate. On the back page, Genomic Medicine Building Complex inaugurated, and GACL donates 2 dialysis machines, chairs to Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. And in recent times, dialysis coming to the fore one more time, and the NHIA government stepping in, intervening to some level, but a whole lot of people on the verge of kidney collapse and dialysis issues. There's a 13-year-old whose story we've been sharing with you this morning. But let me start from there, on the back page. The Ghana Airports Company Limited has donated 2 dialysis machines and 2 treatment chairs to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to address critical equipment shortages in the Premier Hospital's dialysis treatment unit. In addition to the equipment, the GACL will cover 1 month of dialysis treatment costs for 50 patients at the hospital, a gesture aimed at easing the financial burden on patients. The equipment and patient treatment costs around $112,000, approximately 2 million Ghana cedis. The group also further donated 200,000 Ghana cedis to the cardiothoracic department of the hospital. The managing director of GACL, Yvonne Opari, stated that the donation was part of the company's corporate social responsibility. And I think all organizations, MNCs among others, big business that should be donating to the dialysis center, not just at Korle Bu, but at the training hospitals, the major public hospitals, because it's becoming a real menace. The Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital, the Tamale Teaching Hospital, among others. Then, standoff in Parliament, solution rests with Speaker Dafeamekpor asserts. Now, the Majority Leader, Alexander Dafeamekpor, has stated that the solution to the ongoing standoff in Parliament rests solely on the shoulders of the Speaker of the House, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman. He said it was Mr. Bagman's declaration of the seats of 4 members of Parliament vacant that caused the chaos in the chamber, insisting that the Speaker consequently bore the ultimate duty of bringing peace in the House. The Leader of Government Business pointed out that the Speaker was the, quote, source and cause of the confusion in Parliament rather than any person. And he says, we think that the Speaker has failed Parliament and he is failing democracy. That is our view. And he says they are ready to engage. But I've heard different dimensions to this story. And I would also ask about the leadership of he himself, the leader of the MPP caucus, Dafeamekpor. Yesterday, I heard former President Mahama talk about the fact that if he were president, he would have called upon the Council of State, some elders of religious bodies to engage the Speaker and to have resolved this impasse. But anyway, it is where it is. I've heard different voices on this matter, and we'll see how things go, especially in anticipation of the court's ruling. But let me also look at, and of course, I've already mentioned that the court will be delivering its ruling, but since it's tied to it, let me just skip to page 13 and get that in the fray. Let me just go there quickly. The vexed issue of 4 seats in Parliament declared vacant by the Speaker, which has halted the extraordinary sittings of the House and set the stage for a potential constitutional crisis, is expected to be resolved by the Supreme Court today. A 7-member panel of the Apex Court, presided over by the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, will deliver judgment giving the correct interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) and (h) of the Constitution. Other members of the panel are Justices Mariam Owusu, Avril Lovelace Johnson, Isifu Omoro Tanko Amadu, Samuel Kwame Adibu Asiedu, Ernest Yao Gayu, and Yao Dako Asari. All of them will be on board for that ruling. And finally, this one. Vote for competence above other considerations. NCCE boss to electorate. Now, the chairperson of the NCCE, Kathleen Addy, has called on voters to look beyond money, ethnic and religious considerations to vote on December the 7th. She said the electorate had to vote based on the competence and plans of candidates. Full stop. I mean, I could go on and on, but that's the thrust of her message. I'll start with you, Kojo. Reflections.
Well, it's very unfortunate that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama only talks about things that has already been done. The Council of State have met with the Speaker. There's a picture online that shows you when they met with him. I mean, other religious bodies have met with the Speaker, and he tells them one thing, and when the Parliament reconvenes, he went and did a different thing. Look, words matter in this country. And in private and in other conversations...
Clarify this for me. You say he tells them one thing and he goes to do another thing. Where he is whom?
The Speaker. The Speaker tells everybody that meets with him privately one thing and then goes into the chamber to do something else. He has said that he has never ruled that he is not pay his ruling that the chaos is there. But he also refuses to basically ask the minority side to step down from what they are doing. Because it is by his utterance, as the majority leader, Dafeamekpor, rightfully said. What is stopping him from coming out to tell the minority side to sit on the minority side because they are still minority? These things, look, words matter, and it's by his utterances that we are in this chaos. And the only way it's reversed is by his action. By so doing, he's going to go down as one of the worst speakers that we have in our history, and history will judge him accordingly. Let me move on to the dialysis issue. From the 1st of December, all kidney patients will receive free dialysis under the National Health Insurance. Before, it was patients under 16 years and people under over 60 years. But now, as has been announced by the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia Bold Solution speech, I think sometime last week, he basically came out to say that the government has directed NHIS to now take care of all kidney patients to give them free dialysis under the National Health Insurance from the December 1st. So it's good news for Ghanaians, and it's good news, like you rightfully said, dialysis is the problem for our mothers, brothers, and sisters in this country when it comes to kidney diseases. So it's good news that now, going forward, from 1st of December, there's going to be free dialysis under the National Health Insurance.
Wisdom? Wisdom, you would have to unmute. Okay, yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Look, I have a lot of respect for the Speaker of Parliament. He's an honorable man, a man with an impeccable, record of public service. And I respect and I admire him a great deal for that. I don't think he thinks he's a king or an emperor, as the MPP caucus leader cautioned. I think what Ghanaians are saying is that they need a parliament that works for them, but also a parliament that is free of unnecessary judicial influence. Right now, the Chief Justice is calling the situation in Parliament a constitutional crisis. And the Speaker of Parliament is also saying there is no crisis. So evidently, the key players in this matter, they are not on the same page in diagnosing the enormity of the standoff. And I believe that people just want normalcy to return. So I hope the Supreme Court delivers a verdict today based on facts and the rule of law. But as I mentioned before...
What do you think, though, about... I mean, people have, in different ways, lampooned the leader of the MPP caucus, Alexander Dafeamekpor, but others have also lampooned, taken the Speaker himself to the cleaners and said that, look, like it or not, when it comes to constitutional matters, in the end, no matter whether even the Supreme Court is right or wrong, whatever its ruling is binding until you can find other mechanisms of overturning that. Of course, I understand the situation. You would say that the mechanism is the same mechanism that has denounced, this process. But what role does the Speaker play in terms of responsibility here? What do you think?
I think that the Speaker is doing what he's supposed to do. I like to listen to the experts on this matter. And just yesterday, one of the Ghana's distinguished lawyers, Chachuchi Kata, he came out to speak his mind about this, that even the majority leader did not have a basis to go to the Supreme Court in the first place. So I think regardless of what is going on in the court, the Speaker of Parliament, he's doing what is in the best interest of the nation from a Parliament perspective. And as I mentioned before, Ben, on this topic, we do have three arms of government. And the founders and the framers of the Constitution, they intended these arms of government to work hand in hand, and not one of them, exerting undue influence or pressure on the other. I just think that the Supreme Court should have maybe stayed out of similarly, trying to have a say in the ways the Speaker of Parliament implements the standing orders of the House. That is why I agree with Chachuchi Kata on this one. We need to understand that it is not the right picture, that the Supreme Court appears to be more powerful than the legislative branch of government. When that happens, Ben, as some Ghanaians are already saying, it creates the impression that the judiciary is becoming political, not independent.
But hold it there. Among the three arms of government, there's no such thing as which one is more powerful. They play different. No, hold for me. You suggested that this one is beginning to look more powerful. There is no, and that is exactly the problem. That is what brings power play. It's like, let me use the analogy of Christian belief, Catholic belief in the Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. One is not seen to be above the other. They are co-equal, a Trinity, three persons, one God. That's how we see it. It's the same here. And that is why you have separation of powers. That's why you have checks and balances. That's why they are supposed to be co-equal, so that this one can check the other two, this can check the other two, and that's the system. So it's not about who is more powerful or which entity is more powerful. People often make the mistake. They think because the executive usually runs government, it is more powerful than the other arms of government. That is not, and in any case, that's not what it should be. Please go ahead.
Ben, well, since he's had some time,
please let him land.
Let me make my point quickly. Ben, you're right? When the judiciary starts to work to, rule on how parliament should be run, then they start to appear as if they are more powerful than the other branches. That's my point that I was trying to make. And I also believe that these are the sort of situations that cause, Ghana's judicial index, their independence index, to drop so significantly over the last decade. There is a test of our democracy. Let's not forget that. So far, it is good for our democracy, right? There's not been any issues that we can say that there is major constitutional crisis. I believe it will be resolved. But I think there should really be clear separation of powers. And the way this one is resolved will set clear precedents going forward on future issues.
If I may, Kojo, will you allow me to regulate this, please?
Okay.
If I may add, that same index which you referenced, which talks about the sharp fall in the judicial, indices of Ghana, also points to a sharp fall in the parliamentary ratings, indices of Ghana as well. So maybe it's high time we looked at all of it. And even the executive, when you look at governance related matters. So maybe it's high time we stopped the politicization, the polarization, and looked at our three arms of government, because all of them are receiving, in some cases, fail grades, and it's high time we looked at them, executive, legislature, judiciary.
Absolutely.
What is going on with our three arms of government? Because if they don't hold, there are going to be problems. Finally, Ansan Sari, who is former director of the Ghana School of Law, waded into it, and he said for him, where he sat was that the problem was created by the courts. And that right stemming from the very fact that what the point Chachu Chikata makes, that there was no legal basis for it even to start the process based on what Dafeamekpor brought in. That is what has brought us here. So you have varying opinions, but how do we resolve this? That's the bottom line. Kojo Poku.
I am very surprised that anybody will say that a citizen of this country doesn't have a right to go to Supreme Court for interpretation of a law. It's a right of everybody, right? Everybody can go to the Supreme Court.
The legal process, no one is saying that you can't go. It's about the legal process that started this.
What he said earlier was that Chachu said that Dafeamekpor should not have gone to court in the first place. And I'm saying that nobody can say that because it's everybody's right to go to court to get an interpretation. That's the point I'm making.
Okay. You see, I thought you were referencing Ansah Asare, who was, purporting something.
No, he said that Chachu said that Dafeamekpor has no right to go to court. You see, everybody has run to the Supreme Court. Today, the minority side is the Supreme Court trying to get Supreme Court to rule on LGBT, right? Everybody in this country, depending where you find yourself, when you have a conundrum, when you feel that the system is being unfair, where do you go? The Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is there for all of us. And it has ruled for most people. And every time it rules on people's favor, oh, yay, they are the big thing that has ever happened before the slice of bread. But when it ruled against you, it's human nature. You are not so happy. But we should stop bastardizing the Supreme Court to make it look like it is a political institution. It's not. And we all know it is not. The issue of let me make a point.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. When I thought you were done on that point.
This issue can be resolved by the speaker himself. And let me repeat this.
But why make it a speaker's problem and say, how about the other parties? How about the other parties in the conversation?
No, but he started it. There was no other parties. Look, there is no standing order which the speaker relied on to make his ruling. There's no standing order. And Mr. Honorable Kyei-Mensah had a one-on-one with Evans on the PM Express. And if you watch it, he categorized it clearly. There is no standing order on which the speaker made that utterance, that ruling. There was nothing in front of him to make a ruling. The Parliament has rules. There are ways in which a speaker can make a ruling, either through a petition, which has to go to the petition committee. In this case, there was no petition, and nothing has gone to the petition committee and come to the plenary. There was the statement on the House. What was the statement? What the plea from the minority side at the time, he couldn't stand on that to make a ruling. So this thing can easily, it's the speaker who made a mistake. He can call the Parliament and basically say that, look, based on what was said and it was erroneously interpreted, this is what it is. Case closed.
All right.
The speaker can do that.
All right. Let me just say this, and then we'll move on from this matter and go into other papers. So what Chachu says is that he indicates that the courts typically do not issue stays of execution on rulings from another branch of government, such as Parliament. And quoting him, he says here, first of all, there is really no legal basis for a stay of execution of a ruling of the Speaker. The Supreme Court and other courts have the authority to stay execution of decisions within the court system. But you don't apply for a stay of execution of something that happens within another arm of government, which is the arm of the Speaker. There are clear decisions of the court themselves, including the Supreme Court's decisions which make it absolutely clear that you don't, under the guise of interpretation, take to the Supreme Court things that are within the preserve of other courts or other authorities in the system. And we know what 99 says about the High Court. So that is the angle Chachu
But you are aware of Attorney General and Alassa, right? Where the Supreme Court came and even expunged Hansard writings. So that one, I don't see what Chachu is talking about.
What is your point? What is your point on that?
My point is, Supreme Court, there's nothing that has happened until the Supreme Court rules and becomes a precedent. So what are we talking about? The law.
Wait. Repeat what you just said. What did you just say?
What I said is that a lot of things does not exist until the Supreme Court rules and becomes a precedent.
But even precedents can be overturned, right?
Well, but the Supreme Court rules, unless Supreme Court, let me finish. Unless Supreme Court overturns wisdom. Well, please. What I'm saying is that the law of the land states that when Supreme Court rules is final and it becomes a test case and precedent. Now, Anytime the Supreme Court has ruled, there are things that did not exist until Supreme Court rules, and it becomes a precedent which can be cited in other cases. So in this case, it has never happened before, but the Supreme Court has done it, which would now become a precedent.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts, gentlemen. I'll just take a swipe at these international stories. We are not reflecting on them. Botswana Vice President to double as Finance Minister. Some of these arrangements sometimes interest me. But we've seen in Nigeria, for example, where I think the president was also oil minister, related to that and with other portfolios. But briefly, 15 soldiers killed in operation against Boko Haram. Kenya's Raila Odinga launches candidature for AU's top job, and Mauritius PM concedes defeat in parliamentary election. Those are the stories there. Let's do the Daily Guide now. They also talk about, so I found this one interesting. Sitting on minority side will be bad omen. Afenyo Markin, he was talking about the fact that it would be spiritually wrong for him to sit in the minority leader's chair. And I guess we spiritualize everything. My take, personal take. Local government minister commissions Techiman and Nkoranza markets. 4 MPs seat saga. Bagbin swerves SC judgment today. Rebecca campaigns for Bawumia and end dollar-based crude oil pricing. Dr. Abdul Hamid says so. Let me just take a quick swipe at that story. We've already looked at those politically charged ones. The African Refiners and Distributors Association has asked 54 African countries to end the dollarization of petroleum products. They asked the African countries to build integrated infrastructure to guarantee energy security that is independent of developed countries to stabilize their economies. President of the ARDA, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, while speaking at the African Energy Week in Cape Town, South Africa, also called for a halt in the export of crude oil from Africa, insisting that the continent was far from meeting its energy security amid rising population. I also like to just say this, that oftentimes when we talk about the dollarization of economies and all of that, sometimes we get it wrong. We have done too much of it in Ghana, and now, real estate and other things, if you want to veer into anything, people are quoting in dollars. Some basic things I don't even want to mention here, people quote in dollars, maybe because of where we've got to. But there is also the thinking that because of BRICS and all of that, it is good. This initiative is good. But let no one think that, it's going to be an overnight success where we win ourselves of dollarization, or even the euro, or even the Swiss franc, though the dollar is the most popular, or the Great British pound. It will happen on the back of sustained, proper economic management and ensuring that our currency is at a certain base so that it can be used as a standard. The Americans have the Fort Knox, they have the Fed, and what they do, they have the largest store of gold in terms of weighting their currency. So let's stop this joke, because we like to talk about this sometimes, but you know better, Wisdom Dogbe, that is not a reality. But Wisdom, I would have gone to Kojo Poku for starters because it's an energy matter. I want to start with you briefly before I go to Kojo.
But I missed this one in the news, but what I would say is, if we can produce enough crude oil in Ghana, right, we will be able to win ourselves off of international crude oil. For instance, with what is going on not in Ukraine, but in Israel and the Middle East, the risk is that as the war continues, we will see crude oil go up. And that is dollar denominated. But if we can produce more crude oil locally, that will cushion us from surging energy prices because of geopolitical tensions. Now, the other thing I'll say briefly is everything in Ghana now is priced in dollars, especially if you don't live in Ghana and you call to, follow up on something. The moment they see your number, your foreign number, your price is going to be in dollars. So I hope that also can change. It's not just crude oil, but everything else that is priced in the country.
Kojo.
This thing I don't understand. You are calling from America. Somebody is speaking to you in a language you understand. Then you are saying that the minute they see if you are calling from America, isn't dollar you chop? Why won't somebody talk to you?
That doesn't mean what I call
Let's move on. It is what it is. You live in America. Somebody will talk to you in a language you understand, which is dollar. Look, Ben, the most important thing is that there is always bold solutions in everything that we are doing going forward in this country. What Dr. Hamid was talking about is at the back of Gold for Oil, which has been very successful and has also resonated in other parts of African countries where the last, I think there was an African Union conference or something like that where that policy of gold for oil has been talked about. A lot of international communities are beginning to look at that policy where they have certain natural resources and they want to now bring back the barter trade where we are swapping commodity for commodity. I think in terms of crude oil now, most of the reports into Ghana, we hardly import crude because you are aware that our oil refinery is not working, and the other refinery, they are all private refineries. So how they pay for their crude is their own backyard. But in terms of products,
but let me ask you quickly, just a quick thought. I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought. Is Central working?
Central is working, yes, but Central is private, so Central imports its own crude oil.
I am fully aware of that. Do you know their capacity, their level of production currently? Do you know?
No, I don't. But Central is labeled to be something about 30,000 or 60,000 metric tons per day, but they are not running at full capacity. I really don't follow Central that much, so I might be wrong on that capacity.
Okay, I was just asking to know how much it would be contributing to our ecosystem when it comes to fuel and fuel prices.
About 13%. Central contribute about 13% to our local domestic. Most of it is still imported. But you know that about 38% of our imports now is the gold for oil import, where we basically swap the imports with gold. And that is going so well. The bold solution going forward is to basically increase that ecosystem of where we pay gold for our products to about 68 to 70%. So majority of our imports will now be gold. The other thing where, Ben, you mentioned that it's going to take time, we agree. But a lot of the monies that are basically sent out of the country based on companies who are doing business here, multinationals, one of the policies going forward is to basically also encourage them, which has been started by Bank of Ghana, to encourage the likes of MTN and other big corporates who repatriate a lot of money to really take gold for their repatriation, which Bank of Ghana has started that initiative. So the more gold we have, we will be able to use gold as our backbone of all the exchanges of foreign currencies that we need. So gold is as good as money. So that is where the world is heading. And with Dr. Bawumia coming out with G4O, gold for oil, a lot of communities have really started looking at that policy as well.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts there. I stumbled on this story. I'll not read it out, but I think it's beautiful. From stigma to triumph, the story of twins with albinism. And Mawunyo Kuma Yako Dagba and Mause Yako Hamidu graduating there. And sometimes the sort of impediments you see, they already have to go through quite a lot, walking in the sun and other things, and the stigma in society. So congratulations to them. You can check out details of that on page 4 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Trump has promised a closed border mass deportations. What does that mean for immigrants? You can check out the story on page 5 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Burkina Faso military regime aims to reinstate death penalty, government says. But let me quickly go to the Economy Times newspaper. Ghana bags $840 million in oil revenue in the first half. If you have any reaction to any of those stories, you can feed them into when I'm done with this one. And the Public Interest and Accountability Committee's semi-annual report has indicated that oil revenue for January to June 2024 reached $840.7 million, a notable rise from $540 million in the same period in 2023. There's also Bank of Ghana's gold coin effectiveness to tackle Ghana's dollarized economy critiqued. And of course, there are critiques of that saying that this probably is not going anywhere. I have heard, I think it was Professor Bokpin or one of those also talk about it and say, or was it Lord Mensah, say that this was no solution really in dealing with issues. Vote for my husband, Alan's wife charges and says he will be a better president. And that is the New Independent newspaper. It also says Alan Cash gains northern momentum as Alhaji Sadiq Boniface rallies Savannah region for change. Then there is the story. Daybreak, Medical Association laments members' alcohol abuse. And the president, Dr. Sribo, has been talking about that with some junior doctors impacted, claiming some of them get drunk, they physically or sexually abuse some patience, and some of them neglect duty. So those are some of the comments that have been made. Of course, this is not to whitewash all junior doctors or all doctors for that matter and say that they are engaging in these. These are some topical stories I want to bring to your attention as we wrap. I'll start with you, Wisdom.
No, could you?
On the Trump item, I think that a lot of Ghanaians, especially those in the church, are very happy about Trump winning the elections. There are videos on social media purportedly attributed to Trump that he will stop the sex change surgeries of our children. To be clear with your viewers, there is no such thing as a sex change of children in the U.S. without the parents' consent. But somehow, Trump has made his supporters believe your child can go to school as a boy and come back home as a girl. That's false. There's also nothing like elective abortion during birth or killing the baby after the child is born. That is murder here in the U.S. Look, I like to refer to myself also as pro-life and also pro-family, but I'll caution Ghanaians to be a bit careful in celebrating Trump, right? I worry that the U.S. and the world, we are getting to a point where we no longer care about people's character.
Brief thoughts. Go ahead, but make your thoughts very brief. Mm-hmm.
So I think that Trump is seen as a pro-business candidate. That is why we saw global stock markets rally so strongly when he won. But we should watch out. I mean, Ghana inclusive. We should watch out for his trade policies.
All right.
He said he would slap tariffs on all imports coming to the U.S.
Right.
That can affect Ghana's businesses as well.
Okay. We don't have enough time, so we just have to maybe address one issue. Maybe at some other opportunity, I'll walk
but you let me talk on this matter.
All of us through. Kojo,
Ben,
can you have
let me
patience?
comment on this matter.
Can you have patience?
Say that again.
Can you have patience?
No,
Kojo?
but
I've not ended the conversation. I'm merely stating something.
And you made Wisdom go. I was supposed to go because
How do you know you were supposed to go first?
I know, but you started with Wisdom. You're supposed to come back to me, and Wisdom is done, and you're not coming back to me, and you're making a commentary. That's the point I'm making.
Go ahead, Kojo.
Thank you. With the
since you are the host, you are a host and a guest at the same time.
No, I'm not the host, but
go
in fairness, you know, you are Ben, you are a champion of fairness, aren't you? There you go. You see, I like that smile. I like that smile. You see, look, in this issue of the coin and all these things, look, in every country, when something is introduced, it takes time. Nobody thought that the free credit scoring system in America, which was started in 1956, it did not take off until the 1980s. Okay. So everything that is introduced takes time. The coin, the gold coin, will take time. Okay. We have people who are set in their world and set in their lifestyle. They are not going to stop their investing habit to buy the gold coin. But as time goes around, a new generation comes in. They will accept the new instruments that are available. So I think we should give everything that comes around time to grow.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. And that was Kojo Poku. He's an energy analyst. We also had Wisdom Dugbe, a financial analyst. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break, and Muftar Nabil Abdullahi will be serving you sports. Do stay.
Time now to bring you sports here on the AM show with me, Muftar Nabil Abdullah. 8 Black Stars players started preparing for the last round of AFCON 2025 qualifiers against Angola and Niger. The preparation took place at the Accra Sports Stadium on Monday evening. I'm proud that the Ghana Football Association had announced that 8 players have withdrawn from the team ahead of those 2 games against Angola on Friday and Niger next week, Monday. Ghana currently occupy 3rd place in Group F in the 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifiers, needing to win their next 2 matches against Angola on Friday and Niger next week, Monday, and hoping that Sudan will lose their 2 remaining matches against same opposition to stand a chance of qualifying to the tournament. Some of the players who withdrew from the Black Stars team for this round of matches, according to the Ghana Football Association, did so on personal reasons. These are excerpts of the Black Stars training at the Black Stars training grounds on Monday at the Accra Sports Stadium. As you can see on your screen, the likes of Mohammed Kudus, Jojo Wallacott, and the likes of Kyei-Mensah were all available for the training session. And the home-based players who have been called up by Otto Addo, Emmanuel Enchi, Isaac Afo, Simpson Lamptey of Nations FC were all available for a training session which took place at the Accra Sports Stadium on Monday evening. One of the players who also withdrew from the team due to personal reasons is Joseph Penso, according to the Ghana Football Association, and he did indicate to the team that he was not available for the game. Now, let's hear from Kyei-Mensah, who is a left back of the Black Stars. He says that the players withdrawing from the team is a big blow.
For me, I think, first of all, every player in the national team is very crucial to the team. And then, obviously, we have players that we are always looking up to see in the national team, and we have players that are also there to support when the other players are not there. I mean, it's a big loss for us, but also at the end of the time, at the end of the day, we still have a team to cover up. And then I'm not really scared about that. But like I said, everybody's crucial to the team, so one is not there, one is ready to play. So, yes, I mean, like I said, we are made for this. The journey is always going to be smooth. We've come to the junction where we have to hope and then work for ourselves. So, obviously, like you said, we're going to watch the game and then see what's going to happen in the game. But at the end of the day, the focus is to win our 6 points, and then everything that's going to happen on the side, we are there for it.
Gideon, how difficult is it to get yourselves ready for this game in terms of motivation when you know that it's not in your hands?
I think the motivation is always the football that we play. I mean, we have good people here in Ghana who support us every day and then every time that we play. So obviously, like we are here for a game like this, and then we are all, mentally we are prepared for this. So I don't think we have any other thing to think about other than the game. So that's the motivation for us. Yeah, I mean, I think this question is, I mean, even if we were performing very, very good in the national team, we're still not going to be like the performance in our club, because obviously, like, you're playing a club where you've been training for like the whole season together, and then every day, and then you come to the national team and then you have like 3 days, 4 days to train, and you have a game, and then obviously, like you said, it's not always going to be the performance but I know that every player here in the national team is ready to fight for the country and then ready to fight for the shirt. We may not always get it how we want it to go in the game, but I promise you that we're always working to get what the results that Ghanaians want from us.
Let's still stay on the national team, but this time around specifically on Mohammed Kudus. Well, the last time out, when he turned up for international football against Sudan, he was made captain of the Black Stars. But the senior national team drew and suffered a loss in the second leg against Sudan, which took place in Libya. There was so much social media abuse, and when he went back to his club, West Ham United, he received a red card in their game against Tottenham Hotspur. Well, the reason he gave for that red card was that he had received so much social media abuse, and that has affected him psychologically. His teammate, Mikel Antonio, who is currently in Ghana, says that that red card Mohammed Kudus suffered will make him miss 5 games, and this means that his absence is a massive blow for the club.
Starboy. It's quality, to be fair. He's an unbelievable player, how he dribbles to the ball, he scores goals. He has great ambition for himself, and hopefully we can get some players like that from our academy.
I mean, it's been quite a difficult season, a difficult start for him at the club this season compared to last season when he was flying all over. How has his mentality or his actions around the club been during this down period?
Well, obviously he got red carded and he's missing 5 games, so he's a great miss. He is a quality player and is someone that we definitely need in our starting lineup. So things ain't gone well this year, but I know he's going to come back fully ready to go and going to be back to his quality.
Let's go to Winneba and speak to the director of the Winneba Sports College, Bao Husseini. Well, hitherto, this was a facility that serves as the home of building and upgrading talents in the country. Unfortunately, in recent times, it has become a reptile breeding ground due to the way it has been managed by some people. Bao Husseini, he was appointed the acting director of the Winneba Sports College just 2 months ago. He says that one of his visions is to ensure that the place is renovated and put in the right structures that will make it suitable for use. He spoke to my colleague, Nathaniel Atto.
Facilities here. We have a football pitch. We have 8 tennis courts. We have another hockey pitch in front of the college. And we have a lot of places that we can construct volleyball, basketball, and handball on our turf. And we have a whole lot of land that we can put up more infrastructure, more structures. And when I came yesterday, I had a meeting with the technical people that were thinking of establishing a proper gymnasium, a gym.
Yes.
And construction of swimming pool just behind the tennis court. This is what immediately this what we want to do. Apart from fixing the environment, there are some few cracks, there are some few plumbing issues that we are currently working on. Because I believe that if your environment is not appealing, nobody would like to come here. So we are first and foremost working seriously on the environment and the buildings. We want to do some painting. We need to add internet for the students. We need to have 24 hours lights, 24 hours water supply. We need to have cheap or pavement around the surroundings, so that there's a lot of mosquitoes here. We need to do away with that as quickly as possible. That is what currently we are doing. If you go in front there, you see that we are constructing a pavement lane. Yes, and we have to work on the drainage in front of the college to the football pitch. When it rains, because the drainage is choked, when it rains, the water flows onto the college. So that is what we are currently working on, to free the flow of the water in the drainage. Then we will now come to the tennis court, which I call low fruits, something that we can easily do without much financial injection.
So, in terms of the history, these 8 courts were facilitated by the ITF, right?
The ITF have agreements with the college at that time to construct, for them to construct this tennis court and construct a hostel accommodation for the international people, international players to come. But the condition was that they have to put up the hostel facility to certain level,
certain standards,
certain standard before the ITF would pay for it and owns it. But I don't know what were the actual agreements. Finish the construction, it looked as if it didn't get to the ITF standard or what the ITF was looking for, so they left it there. So one of the things that I will seriously working with the International Federation, the Tennis Federation in Ghana here, is to revisit that.
Exactly.
And see what we can do to add to the hostel facility that will meet the international standard. Even the court, I was briefed yesterday by the former director, Mr. Noah, that they had an agreement with the ITF to make this place a center for tennis for West Africa.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes, I remember when I came to NSA first, they used to have programs here every year. Every year.
Exactly, I remember.
It was vibrant. It was very, very vibrant. So this is what we need to revisit. This is what I'm working with the technical team here and the Tennis Federation in Ghana here, for us to see how we can quickly fix the tennis court first, because there are a few cracks on it, and we need to work on it as quickly as possible. Then we come and enhance the standards of the hostel. Because if you are going to host international players or international programs, first and foremost, what you need to do is that apart from the playing field, the accommodation and the feeding must also be at international level. Because if you bring people from maybe Spain, or people from South Africa, or people from Senegal, where they will sleep is as important as where they will play. So we need to fix all those things. Okay, in one of my policies that I presented to the ministry was that we have to do this place to be an international training center, not only for football or for tennis, but at least for 6 to 7 disciplines, that people can come here and train, people can come here to camp, people can come here for courses, people can come here for capacity building. You know, this college was established alongside with JIMPA. JIMPA was to train professional public and civil servants. And this college was to train professional sportsmen, sports administrators, and sports coaches. Yes. So we need to go back to that basics. For us to be able to do that, we need to enhance certain facilities here. But if you want it to be international, then the facility you have must also be an international standard. And this is what we are going to do in the near future, in 2 to 3 years, if I'm still be here. Because this place is not a bit stable.
Last weekend, Ghana organized or hosted the Rugby Women's Sevens at the University of Ghana Rugby Field. President of Rugby Africa, Herbert Mensah, says that the right investment is needed for a country to be in place to compete at the highest level.
We brought in athletes, officials, and supporters, about 200 people. We brought them in without a hitch. We've hosted them and shown them that we have a level of hospitality that is unique in Ghana. There is no link between this and the African Union Games. This has been an exhibition of pure excellence. And that I'm really, really proud. Look at the ball boys. Look at the officials. Look at how we've integrated Ghanaians into it. Look at the facility we're able to show. Even before we talk about the quality of rugby on the pitch. And hasn't there been some beautiful rugby? Look at those women. And you've got women who are playing who are so highly ranked. South Africa are world class. Everybody knows that. Very easy to be bounced out. After yesterday, look how close Ghana came to playing against Kenya yesterday. I know it took all the effort out of their lungs and their bodies, what they put on the line. And then to comprehensively beat Mauritius meant that Ghana qualified for the quarterfinals. For that, they've got to be very proud. Those girls, headed by Rafatu Musa, have really set the benchmark this last 3-4 years.
That's your sports for now. We do have more stories on myjoyonline.com. And if you go on the website, you would realize that Premier League referee Scooter has been suspended by the Premier League Management Board for comments he passed about Liverpool and judging club. And also in England, you also realize that 8 players withdrew from the 3 Lions team for this weekend's Nations League matches that would be played. We appreciate your time.
This is the AM show. Welcome back. Imagine this: being diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease, aged only 13, when all your dreams and aspirations are just beginning to bud. And imagine having to go through treatment, dialysis treatment, for 3 years, aged 13. That is the story of Rosemary Bwedu. And now she requires $25,000 for an intervention so she can basically live. In our latest Hotline documentary, Emmanuel Jivenu brings us dialysis at 13.
So will I be on dialysis for the rest of my life? Or will I get someone to help me out of this? Or that will be the end of my life?
Rosemary Bwedu's journey with end-stage kidney disease began at the tender age of 13, a time when most children are filled with dreams and aspirations. Hers was overshadowed by the specter of chronic illness. What seemed like minor discomforts soon escalated into a life-altering diagnosis.
We went to several hospitals. They did not find out what was happening to me. So a friend of my mother introduced a hospital to us to go there. So when we went there, they wrote a letter for my mother to go to another hospital. But then we did not open the letter. And when my mother opened it too, she did not tell me what was in the letter. And so we went to that hospital at home.
It was only after a series of referrals and mysterious letters that the full extent of her condition became clear. Her kidneys have failed, and her only lifeline was the grueling routine of dialysis.
I don't know that they have told my mother that I have to go for dialysis so that they will do something for me. So now my kidney is no more working. The two of them have been damaged, and the work that is that can no more do it. Yeah, of course, everybody on your phone. How can you be calling someone every day, every time to ask for money? How would that person feel for you? So sometimes it happens that I will not go. Even today, tomorrow I'll be going to dialysis, but as I'm here, I'm still thinking about who I go home to call and ask for money. If I do not get, then that means I'll not go. And we are writing exams. That's what I can do to get strength and work and sit down for a long time. Then it means maybe I cannot write the exam or come to school. And I don't want that thing to happen to me.
Adeɛ bɛkye a ɛyɛ afrɛ me ɔbɛfrɛ nipa kono saa ebi a ɔbɛfa nanso so ne duru anwumbrɛ deɛ a ɔbɛfrɛ saa nipa kono ɔmfa na afei na yɛaba mu abu.
Being in school gives Rosemary some level of joy, but her current condition makes it difficult for the young girl to be regular in class. She has to visit the hospital twice in a week for her dialysis sessions. Rosemary and her mother relocated from the Oti region to stay with a friend in Accra to be able to visit the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for her sessions. Unfortunately, the philanthropist who had been helping to pay for her renal sessions could not continue after 2 years due to a business slowdown. Her daily existence has been marked by a delicate dance of survival.
Sometimes you get the dialysis man, but the Lord fair you will not get, so you will not go unless the money is up to. Sometimes soon you get the money and the FM go and come back. When we come back, there is nothing for us to eat again. It's what we always do, that maybe buy some biscuits and take it, drink water like this and sleep there because we don't have money and there's no food for us to eat. So it has been very difficult. When it happens like this, I always ask myself, when would this stress stop?
Nyankopɔn sɛ biribi ɛbɛyɛ bi ɛmfa ase da mfama no nti ɛba asa na me so da nyame bɛyɛ bia no yɛmfa ne sɛ yɛmfa ase da mfama no na yɛto da bi so ɛba asa na yɛbɔ mpa na yɛsɛ Nyankopɔn yɛ bi ma na ɔmboae.
She is very academically inclined. She attends school regularly. It's when her health worries her that you would not see her in school. There were times that she would go for dialysis and would want to come back to school immediately after because she doesn't want to lose any of her lessons. And when she is even unwell, she would call the school and inform the school that she's unwell, so she would not be able to come to school.
I came to school last 3 weeks. And today is the 3rd week that we are writing exam. So when I came, it put pressure on me. Copying notes, I used 1 week for copying the notes, and I used 1 week for learning some of the notes. But now, I've not finished learning of some. I've learned it, I'm only revising. Some too, I'm not coming to learn it. So it's really affecting my education.
Thankfully, the National Health Insurance Authority in June 2024 offered a glimmer of hope to Rosemary and other high-risk renal patients under 18 years and those over 60 years by offering 8 free dialysis sessions monthly. This has alleviated the financial burden on Rosemary and her mother. However, in 2 years, when Rosemary will move out of the vulnerable categories, this support will no longer be available and bring back the financial burden.
Sometimes I feel like not going closer to where people are because all of them there are not in my condition. So I look at myself that what am I going to do there? I just see myself how I am and look at them. Is someone suffering from what I'm going before I go there? So I don't like going closer to people.
Her dream of becoming a doctor has been overshadowed by the harsh reality of her present, the constant worry of finding funds for treatment and the fear of death, always heavily on her young shoulders.
I want to be a doctor in the future, but sometimes I think maybe that future will not come true because of the condition I am in today and because I don't always come to school. So I think maybe I cannot succeed to be what I want to be in the future.
Interacting with her, you see that she is, number one, very assertive, very bold, and as I earlier said, she's academically minded. She wants to do it. She wants to progress. She doesn't want to miss anything. So if her health condition were not crippling her, she could have shot up to the top in no time. So if she gets support for this kind of thing that is disturbing her, she would have a peace of mind and it would help her to go very, very, very far.
Kidney transplant is often the preferred long-term treatment option. Transplant may offer the possibility of restoring kidney function and improving quality of life compared to ongoing dialysis. Unfortunately, Rosemary and her mother have been pushed to the very edge of society. To even afford 1 square meal a day is a luxury, let alone afford to foot for a transplant. But they remain hopeful in the face of adversity.
I can say, on 10 or make me a man who to this or more transplant. A man, it's your more transplant and a home better. Na machine with Osha on to mean that so sa copem tema. Baby, obey to me a frame.
For now, I need help for transplant because I would not like to be on dialysis for the rest of my life. In this situation too, it's not that being on the dialysis will help the kidney to get taken and less transplant. So I'm pleading with people to help me to do transplant. My mother cannot afford that money, my father cannot. Family members alone to also not afford. So I'm pleading with everybody to help me to do transplant and stop dialysis.
Nti oko machine so no na enkoro omo wo so no omo do so wo so pa na sese aka ono nko
When I hear that someone on dialysis and that, I ask myself, so will I also die?
Manuel Jivenu's report for Joy News.
The Supreme Court was back in session today hearing the substantive arguments on a substantive case, the interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) and (h) of the 1992 Constitution. Whether or not upon a true and proper interpretation of this, these 4 MPs have lost their seats. Joe Gatti led the team.
Therefore, Article 97, 1G and H will only take effect, or will only take effect if the act, that is the person, if the act, that is the person leaving a party by which was elected to join another party or to remain or to become independent and seeks to remain in Parliament without new political coloration.
Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame said the conduct of the Speaker unlawfully and illegally upset the constitutional order of the country.
Insofar as Parliament is constituted by a certain number of MPs or members of Parliament representing those constituencies, the composition of Parliament shall not be altered except as prescribed for in the Constitution. So no person or authority, with all respect, has the power to make any decision at all or construe the Constitution in a way which will alter or change the composition of Parliament except as stated in the Constitution.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, was not represented in court today. During the entire proceedings, from the start of this case up until now, he has been represented by Mr. Thaddeus Sorry of Sorry at Law, and today there was no representation. The court took due notice of that.
There's nobody here for the Speaker of Parliament. First defendant. All right, by court, no representation for Speaker of Parliament. We note also that the Speaker of Parliament has not filed any statement of case or memorandum of issues, despite the opportunity given for them to be filed. This matter is for hearing this morning. Can we hear counsel for the plaintiff? By court, the judgment of this court will be delivered tomorrow, 12th November 2024. Yeah.
My lords are most grateful.
Lords, we are grateful. Why, I mean, of course, being entirely the prerogative of the first defendant to file anything at all, with respectfully, I think that if the first defendant came before the court at the last agenda date, represented by counsel made representations before the court to file submissions at a certain point in time, elects not to do so, and then for no reason at all, elects also not to appear before the court. Clearly, that is disrespect to the court. I made this observation because I'm the Attorney General, leader of the bar, and all that. Such conduct, with all respect, should not be tolerated by the court.
Leave it to us, Mr. Attorney General. Leave it to us. I would rather advise that as a member of the bar for which you are the leader, you should reach out to him at the close of these proceedings to find out if everything is all right.
My Lord, indeed, my friend, the Chief State Attorney, reached out to him on Friday to find out if processes are being done by him. So we've done our bit. Hardly did we expect that he would not even show courtesy to the court by not showing up. Thank you very much.
Honorable Attorney General, I think at the last agenda, if my memory serves me right, you also said, when we asked that you should file processes, he said he had instructions to deal with the matters that he did, and then
he will go for further instructions.
So, if he has not been employed again,
no. But my recollection is that that was before the firm agreement and then statement as to when processes will be filed by the court. That was before it came. But that's fine.
We have a lot
to deal with. That's fine. I'm very grateful. Yeah. Right.
So if we retire early,
right,
because of the public interest in the matter, we should be able to serve the people in whose sovereignty resides.
Precise. I agree. It's perfect. I'm grateful.
The Supreme Court is now expected to deliver its judgment on this raging controversy on Tuesday, 12th November 2024, the court will decide whether or not the declaration of those 4 seats as vacant was in consonance with the 1992 Constitution, or upon a true and proper interpretation, those 4 MPs have truly not lost their seats. This is such a central piece in the current impasse in Parliament, with all eyes now on the 7-member panel presided over by Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Supreme Court, Accra.
And from all the actions, it was clear that Mr. Speaker was in the know of whatever they were going to do. So he just called Dr. Atuforsen, and he came out with this thing. We argued it, and unfortunately, Mr. Speaker announced that he was going to give a ruling on Thursday, when he had assured me that he wasn't going to give a ruling, but because of the court process and all that, he was going to wait so that we all abide by the reasoning of the court. Because according to him, the matter was a constitutional matter. So for me, it was a big surprise that Mr. Speaker would go out of his way to make a ruling, which immediately made the NDC proclaim themselves to be majority. Although he himself continued to address me as a majority leader. Fast forward, we came to court, the court intervened, and now the new argument of Mr. Speaker was that he didn't give a ruling. He only gave an opinion. He expressed a view on the matter. He met us on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, at a pre-sitting meeting. And at the pre-sitting meeting, I told Mr. Speaker that, well, you are saying you have received the court process and that you have not declared the NDC the majority. Now that they are sitting on our seat, what are you going to do, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker told me that that is the responsibility of the clerk. He later repeated the same thing to the Council of State and the Peace Council. The clerk to Parliament made sure that he had arranged our seat, the majority caucus, our seat, at where we are supposed to sit, the right of Mr. Speaker. Place our name tags there. The NDC came to remove them. Mr. Speaker was aware of this. He watched and continued with the proceedings, where I think Mr. Speaker failed the nation and failed our democracy. And I do so with utmost respect. Some of the NDC guys are trying to suggest that expressing my view on his conduct amount to disrespect. Let me state it clear that I will be the last person, I repeat, Kwame Afenyo-Markin, will be the last person to disrespect Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker should not think that he's a king. He's an emperor. He's not an emperor. He's a democrat. Therefore, he shouldn't be too sensitive to divergent views and opposing views. What he's doing, in all humility, is wrong. So my friends in the NDC should open their eyes and ask themselves, if they were the ones at the receiving end, how would they react? The NDC would have raised hell on this matter. But we have been calm in all of these.
Do we have a constitutional crisis on our hands? Do we not? Well, we'll be discussing those salient matters this morning. Today, the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land, will deliver its ruling on that substantive case when it comes to the 4 members of Parliament, whether they retain their seats or not. But the question is, how about the impasse? Will the ruling of the apex court determine what happens in Parliament? Constitutionally, we'll have a guiding light, but what will apply in Parliament? And will the impasse be deflated? Well, joining us for a conversation on same, we have in the studio Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor. He is a legislator representing the South Dine constituency. He joins us in the studio. He's also a member of the NDC caucus in Parliament. We also have Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. Doc, good morning.
Good morning to you, Benjamin.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Roxanne, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to my co-panelist who is not in the studio. And a special morning to my constituents in Peki, Balik, Tongo, and to our viewers.
Right.
I'm privileged to be here.
It's good to have you here. Let me start with you, Dr. Osai-Kwapong. Looking at how things have evolved. I know we are all expectant to find out what the Apex Court will rule, will decide today, but having got to this point, there are varying schools of thought, including from Chachuchi Kata, including from Mr. Ansar Sare, former director of the School of Law, who says this whole thing has no foundation, no basis, no legs, and that the Supreme Court shouldn't have, even initiated this or accepted the suit as filed by Afenyo-Markin. Others say no, they are on the right path. Lawyers like Kweku Pinto, among others. What exactly is your understanding of where we are now ahead of the Apex Court's ruling?
Thank you very much, and good morning to Honorable in the studio as well. So, I had hoped that whatever misunderstanding, differences was emerging as a result of this issue, that some way Parliament as an institution would have found a way through its own internal processes to come to some consensus and some political agreement on the way forward. I mean, at the heart of this is what those particular articles of the Constitution mean. When I first read it without, not being a legal or a constitutional expert, I kept saying, especially the phrase that says, if the person intends to remain in Parliament.
Right.
And in my head, I kept wondering, is it the current Parliament that he or she is part of? Is it a future Parliament? Then I listened to the Speaker go through all of the steps in explaining why those seats should be declared vacant, following the precedent of a former Speaker. And then I said, well, if you look at the mischief that the Constitution seeks to cure, it won't make sense that it would apply to a future action, right? That it seems like it's a present mischief that those articles are trying to cure. But then I said, well, let's see how it all plays out. But here we are at an impasse. For me, it looks like at this point, the only resolution, to get Parliament, back is for the court to issue its ruling today on what it means and its implications for what the Speaker had said. Save for that, the only thing I would also add is, for me, and I've been saying this over the last 2 weeks, that I hope in the court's interpretation and ruling that it would find a way to just focus on what those articles mean without also making pronouncements on the actions of the Speaker or the steps and the process that the Speaker took. And I say that
in other words, without antagonizing that arm of government.
Exactly, because Parliament, as they regularly would have said, master of its own rules. It's a co-equal branch of government. It's an independent institution. So I'm hoping that whatever the court does, it would recognize, respect, and preserve that. Otherwise, you run into a territory of the implication of now, does Parliament even need permission or some approval from the court on some of its basic processes? That, for me, continues to be my worry and what I look forward to seeing what the court will do.
I see. And Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor is also here. Until recently, I also thought it was pretty clear for me as a student of law, but I guess it's not so clear. So what is your thinking on how things have proceeded over these last few weeks in respect of the impasse in Parliament?
First of all, let's place this matter in some context. The context is that we are within the 90-day window, which the Constitution bars the organization of a by-election.
By-election, right.
In the event that a seat becomes vacant in Parliament. I want everybody to appreciate this point. so that we can understand exactly what the NPP is doing. Exactly 4 years ago, on the 7th day November 2020, the NPP brought a petition to Parliament and demanded that one of its own members, who had then decided to run as an independent candidate in the then forthcoming general elections to be held on 7th December 2020, to have his seat declared vacant because to them, he had left the party because they sponsored him to Parliament. They got Speaker Michael Kwe to pronounce on this and declare the seat vacant. Andrew Amoako-Nsiama never stepped in Parliament until the life of that Parliament came to an end, the 7th Parliament. The NPP then had a majority of 169 members in Parliament. With that declaration, they became 168. A by-election was not held because we're in the 90-day window. Now, sometime in 2022, the NPP again came to Parliament with a request. What was that request? That the Honorable Adjoa Safo had absented herself from more than 15 parliamentary sitting days. And therefore, her seat, that is the Dominic Kwabenya seat, should be declared vacant, pursuant to the same Article 97(1) Clause C. Now, under C, there ought to be some inquiry. So when the referral came, well, there were some suggestions from the minority that then it wasn't only Adjoa Safo that the evidence points to the fact that she had absented herself for more than 15.
I mean, there were a number of them whose names came.
So the Honorable Kennedy Ejapong, his name came up. The Honorable Kujeto provided enough evidence to make that case. Then the Honorable Henry Korte. So the three of them were referred to the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee went into the matter and made recommendations to plenary. What were the recommendations? That the Honorable Kennedy Ejapong and the Honorable Henry Korte had good reasons, and therefore their seats ought not to be declared vacant. But in the case of the Honorable Adjoa Safo, she failed to appear, and therefore, in fact, the Honorable Joe Osei-Owusu, who is still the chairman of that committee, made the point that it is the mandate of the committee to actually declare the seat vacant. Not even the speaker. This was the argument of the NPP. That the seat of the Honorable Adjoa Safo should be declared vacant by the stroke of pen of the chairman of the Privileges Committee. The speaker said no. That duty was inherent in him as the occupier of the office of the speaker. But as part of the recommendations, or as part of the report, it was revealed that the Honorable Adjoa Safo had not appeared before the committee. So Speaker said, before I would declare the seat vacant, we want to give the Honorable Adjoa Safo the opportunity to be heard, or the alteram partem. So the committee should go back and make the efforts, the reasonable efforts to reach Honorable Adjoa Safo so she can appear and be heard. They said they took all reasonable efforts, but they could not have her served for her to appear. The week after that, the Honorable Adjoa Safo... And
I want you to accelerate a bit because we don't have...
So the week after that...
You are setting a precedent or laying the foundation.
I'm pointing to some conduct of the NPP. A week after that, the Honorable Adjoa Safo began to attend Parliament and began to do business with her caucus. So as we speak, that request by the NPP to have Speaker declare Adjoa Safo's seat for absenting herself from more than 15 parliamentary sitting days, pursuant to the same Article 97(1)(c), is pending. Fast forward.
What is the suggestion when you say it is pending. What would you have? You seem to be suggesting something.
Yes.
What are you suggesting?
I'm pointing to a certain conduct of the MPP. It's the same MPP that has come to Speaker to have a seat declared vacant pursuant to the same Article 97(1). Same MPP.
Yes, but now we are looking at different clauses, G and H.
No, it's the same provision. The scenarios painted under the same article are only different. The article says, if any of these events occur, a seat must be declared vacant. I hope that the MPP, having gone to court, they are telling the Supreme Court that even though Cynthia Morrison, that we sponsored to Parliament, who is still a sitting member of Parliament, but has decided to go contrary to our own constitution and put herself forward in the Aguna West constituency in the forthcoming parliamentary elections, is no longer a member of our party by virtue of Article 3(9) Clause 1 of our Constitution. I hope that's the evidence they put before the Supreme Court.
So
I also hope that...
Let me just take a quick look at 97(1)(c), right?
Yeah.
Or maybe let me just start from A. It says, a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, A, upon a dissolution of Parliament. Of course, once Parliament is dissolved, then we know what happens. Or B, if he is elected as Speaker of Parliament, then you cease to represent that constituency. Or C, if he is absent without the permission in writing of the Speaker, and he here is used generically, so he or she, is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet. And then it goes on, and then you'll have G and H as well.
Yes.
I'm still trying to find the nexus.
The nexus is that this same MPP, which is contesting the Speaker's role in declaring this seat vacant, have an application pending before Speaker, as we speak, to have the Domiko Abenya seat declared vacant by Speaker.
You are saying that if this goes ahead, even if you accept and say these ones should stay in Parliament based on the Apex Court's ruling today, and if Parliament decides to, and maybe I should watch how I'm saying this, because it has appeared that Parliament, as a master of its own rules, can, in some way, enforce its own rules. But the Supreme Court of the land will rule on that matter today. But what you're saying then is that they could win from one angle and lose from another. Is that what you're suggesting?
Because the application is
if the Speaker decides to go ahead and say, okay, so I'm declaring these seats vacant, and there's no possibility of a by-election at this point in time.
Because it's still pending. Because, you see, the conduct for which they complain has already occurred. The only indication given by the Constitution is that the person should provide a reasonable excuse. And the committee has determined that the Adjournment has not been able to attend the committee. So there's no provision of a reasonable excuse from
You're saying that as we sit here now, and I have to go back to Dr. John Osai-Kwapong, but you're saying that as we sit here now, I don't know what the processes would be to trigger the declaration, for example, of the Domiko Abenya.
It's only a matter of
vacant. Are you saying that at the stroke of a pen, since the processes have been concluded, the Speaker of Parliament could literally say, okay, well, let's go ahead with this.
Because this report is pending.
But based on this report, these seats are now vacant.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he can do that. Because that happened in the life of this Parliament. And the life of this Parliament has not come to an end.
And will that affect the Henry Quartes, the Adjoa-Safos, and all
According to the committee, they recommended that their seats should not be pronounced vacant by Speaker. That's the recommendation they brought before.
Is the Speaker bound by that recommendation?
In fact, it's plenary. That decision, again, will be taken by plenary. Because who will debate the report and vote on the contents of the report? And the Speaker will only give effect to what the House would have decided.
Will a decision on this go by simple majority?
Simple majority.
Simple majority.
Simple majority.
Even if it's by one?
Yes, simple majority. The Speaker will just give effect to whatever resolution would have passed.
But let me just say this before I go back to Doc. Some would say that, assuming the Supreme Court rules that, okay, what was done by Professor Michael Kyei was wrong. Equally, what was done by Alban Bagbin was wrong. I mean, if they say that this was wrong, it reflects on Professor Michael Kyei as well. And so this is the actual meaning. If the Speaker went ahead to do this, or the NDC caucus went ahead to do this, wouldn't it be like Shylock getting his pound of flesh? Wouldn't it be
at all?
You know, what would I say? Vengeance?
No, this is Parliament doing its work.
Why didn't you do that work all this while? Since the decision, since the committee met, why haven't you done this work? Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it now?
Because Speaker directed the chairman of the committee to go back and reconvene and give the Honorable Adjoa the opportunity to be heard. And the chairman of the committee is the Honorable Joe Osei-Usu. If he hasn't done that, then that is their problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hold for me. Dr. John Osei-Kwapo, do you hear what is happening here?
Yes.
This is getting interesting. It's getting turbulent. And if I'm following the trajectory, this could be a long-standing impasse. I mean, what is your reflection on this? Because I thought this matter had died a natural death. But he points to the fact, Roxanne points to the fact that actually it's a live wire. And if we feel this is the way to go, we will go that way. What is your take?
Mm-hmm. You know, and I actually was also thinking, all right, if the Supreme Court makes its ruling on the substantive question today, regardless of how the court comes down, yes, some will be happy, some will not be too happy, but at least it brings conclusion to the matter. But now that I'm listening to the Honorable, and as you've noted, maybe it doesn't really bring conclusion to the matter. I'm hoping that it does. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on is I watch our parliamentarians regularly from both sides refer to each other as, you know, my good friend, my good brother, right? Which means that my good sister, my good friend, which means that they, you know, outside of the partisan differences, there is a reservoir of goodwill among them. I'm hoping that at some point they would be able to tap into that reservoir of goodwill and find a way to bring some conclusion to this issue without dragging it any further, so they can also, at least some of the key things that they would like to do between now and when the life of this parliament is over, whether, for example, it's the consideration of the FY25 budget or whether it's some important pieces of legislation that needs to be passed. Hopefully, whatever business the House needs to conduct, they can do that between now and, you know, when the life of this parliament is over. I really hope that there is, you know, a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is not an oncoming train.
There's something that came to mind, and I'll come back into the studio. I'll come to you in a bit, Doc. Your side, when Sarah Adjoa was being lampooned by her own caucus in Parliament, your side came to her defense. Do you remember?
Yeah,
you came to her defense saying that she had rights, she had to be heard, and all of that, right? Which was interesting because she wasn't even a member of your caucus.
Yes.
Now, you seem to be suggesting that if things go a certain way, you could also trigger the process.
Yes.
And her seat will be declared vacant.
Yes.
Have you turned against Sarah Adjoa?
We haven't. You should be asking the MPP why they were interested in getting Adjoa kicked out in 2022. Because they would have had opportunity to organize a by-election. EC would have had opportunity to organize a by-election and they would have her replaced. So it wasn't a problem for them to kick Adjoa out at all. So we said, per Article 97(1)(c), the Constitution makes a provision for her to be heard to provide whether or not she had reasonable excuse. It is this provision of reasonable excuse that is holding on to this matter. So if we determine that the party that brought this application is no longer, doesn't appear to be interested, we will trigger it. So I want to remind...
But you talk about
so,
legally what we call audi alteram partem, listen to the other side, giving them a fair hearing, natural justice.
Yes.
How about these four, including the former member of parliament for Amenfi Central, and then the three other MPP MPs? Have they been given a fair hearing?
The Constitution doesn't make any such provision. The Constitution, that provision simply says where there's evidence that they have abandoned their party and seeks to remain in parliament. It is that
have they abandoned their parties?
But they have abandoned your party. If you go to Amenfi Central, the NDC has fielded a fresh candidate, Joanna Jan.
Been reinstated by...
leave the other court matters, but we have fielded Joanna Jan, and she's running under our symbol and our colors. It is not the sitting member of parliament who is doing that, or the ex-member of parliament who is doing that. So clearly, he's left the NDC. But he seeks to remain in parliament. That's what the Constitution, that is the tail end of the provision people read and don't appreciate. If he resign, then that's all good.
But they have not resigned.
Yes, so they seek to remain in parliament, in this parliament. That is why the speaker will have to declare your seat vacant. In the same way, Cynthia Morrison no longer is sponsored by the MPP in the Aguna West parliamentary race. They have a different candidate.
But she's been standing, if you've noticed, when Afenyo Markin is having his press conferences and the rest, she's still caucuses with them.
Standing with them and holding press conferences is no evidence. The evidence is that when we take the notice of poll, you are running as an independent candidate and you seek to remain in parliament. That is what the Constitution says your seat must be declared vacant.
You in Parliament have spoken about precedents. The Speaker himself spoke about Professor Mike Okwe, Aaron Mike Okwe.
Yes.
If we are also to go by that same precedent, and you say Sarah Adjoa-Safo had to be heard, why shouldn't we hear these four?
No, in the Adjoa-Safo, in the provision that they triggered in 97(1)(c), the Constitution makes special provision. It's absent from Parliament for more than 15 sitting days. There has to be an excuse. If there's no reasonable excuse, then your seat will be declared vacant upon the Committee of Privileges making that determination. They will make that recommendation to plenary. Speaker will only pronounce on it. So it is when that pronouncement is done and Adjoa is not satisfied, then she can go to court to seek some interpretation. But where we are now, we will trigger that process. We will trigger that process.
You are threatening.
We are not threatening. We are not threatening. It's only a business.
But you are threatening.
No,
you are saying that if things go a certain way, then we also push.
No, we are saying that there's a business pending before Parliament. It has become critical that Parliament pronounces.
Why now?
Why not now? Why not now?
You could have done this.
No.
When was this decision of the committee taken?
The life of this Parliament has only 2 months to run effectively.
2 months? You mean 2 weeks?
Yes. No. In fact, 6 weeks.
Okay, right. I get what you're saying now. You are going into...
So such businesses will have to be determined. It has to be concluded. It cannot be in abeyance for too long. So we'll have to bring it up. The business committee will have to prioritize it. And then the plenary will have to deal with it. 3 members of Parliament, Henry Cote, the Honorable Kennedy Ejepon, and Adjoa-Safo, we have to take a decision on them. It's a matter they themselves brought. The MPP themselves brought this.
Dr. Osai-Kwapong.
Yes, Benjamin.
This, you know that saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul. You take from one end, you give from the other end. This could, I mean, I am befuddled. Not because I am confused, but the whole, the sort of play going on in Parliament, and I use play respectfully, not in a,
in context,
but the political game being played in Parliament. So let's say that today, let's assume today the court rules that okay, the position of Michael Kwe and given strength by Alban Bagbin are incorrect. Then his side also says, okay, we are now going to trigger for this other bit to be followed through. Adjoa-Safo, Henry Quarte, and who was the last one? Kennedy Ejepon. So that they vacate their seats, which would still create another 3 losses for the ruling administration. Do you think that's the way to go? Let me just put a pointed question to you.
With all due respect, I will say no. I will say no because, yeah, I mean, in principle, I can understand why the Honorable would say, look, it's parliamentary business, we have to conclude on the matter. But if you put it within the context of the continued, back and forth on this issue, it drags this even further. And for me, it creates an impression or a public perception that, we can't find some points of agreement within, the Honorable House. I'm not a big fan of politics that starts becoming too adversarial in nature, right? That at some point, I just hope for a consensus on certain matters to say, you know what, we've quote unquote fought about this long enough that we've reached a point where we can put a stop to the fight and move on past whatever impasse it has put us in. So I would hope that it really doesn't come to that. I would hope that whatever the court decides, and I have no reason to believe that it won't be respected. But what if the court also comes down and says, former speaker was right, current speaker is right? Right? Let's just assume that is also a possibility. Then what does the MPP side do? Do they go back to the court to seek a review of that? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, at some point, hopefully, we can appeal to the better angels in each of us and say, look, let's end this matter, and let's move on.
So it appears there's some political tit for tat, a refusal to bend from all sides. And if the Dome Kwabenya seat, together with the others, if they are subjected to what you are talking about, what will that mean for the majoritarian status in Parliament?
He's further deteriorated, he's further tilted towards the NDC. Now, you see, you let people understand that what's happening is symptomatic of the issues of indiscipline that's bedeviled the MPP. It's about indiscipline. Because the application that I speak of was brought under Kyei's leadership when Kyei was the majority.
Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu.
Yes, when he was majority leader. They
which specify which?
That is the request that Adjoa Safo's seat be declared vacant.
Okay.
Because she decided to abandon the caucus for over 6 months. It became a topical issue in this country. Even her ministerial roles she was not playing. She was then based in the US. Then we found 2 other pieces of evidence. Again, in respect of 2 other members of the MPP, and added them to Adjoa Safo, and they were referred to the committee. Work had been done, report prepared, reports on hold. Now, 2 of your members have decided to jump ship, to go AWOL, to run as independent candidates in their respective constituencies. Now, I heard the Attorney General yesterday that nobody has power to tilt the composition in Parliament. But they got the Supreme Court to tilt the composition in Parliament. If nobody has power to tilt the composition in Parliament, has the Supreme Court got power to tilt the composition in Parliament?
The Supreme Court has been called upon to give interpretation.
Exactly.
Has it not?
But as part of his submission, he practically took the Speaker to cleaners and said all manner of things about the Speaker.
He says the Speaker should realize he is not a king. He's not an emperor. He's a Democrat.
That's about Afenyo. But I speak of the Attorney General on the belly when he was on the.
Oh, you're referring to
the Supreme Court. Yes.
Right.
All right. And I think that and I keep saying that the Attorney General, with all due respect, doesn't appreciate how Parliament works, because it's the same Speaker who tilted the balance of power in Parliament. It's the same Speaker who read a letter, a mere letter from the Formina MP, independent member of Parliament, that I will caucus with the MPP. Because if you recall, the House was split into 2 equal halves. 137, 137, 20 females on each side. All right? Now, with a letter from the Formina MP, Speaker proceeded to declare the MPP caucus as the majority. And by that, you got to elect the majority leader of the House. You got to chair over 85% of committees of Parliament. And with vice chairman and chairman, with all the benefits that comes with it.
Okay, hold for me briefly.
So,
hold for me. I'll come right back to you. Let me cross over to the forecourt of the Apex Court, actually, because, well, they are actually in the chamber currently, and Kweku Asante is also standing by. But let's bring you some footage from the Supreme Court currently. So you would see some lawyers there already beginning to have some discussions, and this is exactly where the Supreme Court is going to sit this morning, as they have done in the past, and they will be delivering their ruling on that impasse in Parliament. Kweku, if you can hear me, what can you report from the Apex Court this morning? Can you hear me, Kweku Asante?
Straightforward, they're about to issue their judgment as regards to the interpretation of the launch today. The court heard a substantive from Joe Dashi, who is lawyer for Petroleum, leading a past legal team, that includes someone attached who is seeing the results. There was Supakwesi Abedu as part of the team. He also sees the result, and then there was your turn.
Well, it doesn't appear that we can we have the connection to Kweku Asante. Kweku, if you can hear me, just let's try to reconnect, and then we shall come to you. I see Atachia in court there as well. We'll try to reconnect with Kweku Asante in court. But let's come back into the studio now. Roxanne Nelson, Dafeamekpor, you were making a point.
Yes.
I'm sorry I had to truncate
It's fine. So my point is that it took the same speaker to determine the composition of Parliament in favor of the NPP. The Attorney General soon after became an Attorney General. All right? He didn't see anything wrong with it because it benefited his party, benefited his caucus in Parliament. And today he stands in the Supreme Court and says that nobody has the power. It's only the Constitution that will trigger that. So when the constitutional provision is triggered, he could say that he disagrees with the interpretation, but he can't say that nobody has the power. When the provision is triggered, it is triggered. Is he saying that when, for instance, a member of Parliament dies, we should go to Supreme Court to seek interpretation as to whether or not the seat of the member who has died should be declared vacant? Because the Constitution is very clear that when you die, your seat is declared vacant. And who does the declaration? It is the Speaker. It is the Speaker who is mandated under the Constitution to write to the EC announcing the vacancy, based upon which the EC will proceed to organize the by-elections. All the by-elections we've had as a result of the death of the substantive members of Parliament. Was it not the Speaker that declared the seats vacant and subsequently wrote to the EC to have the EC organize by-elections? So this attitude of at the slightest opportunity, they take an infra dig at the Speaker, both in the courtrooms, open courtrooms, and in the media. It's unacceptable. Afenyo Maki actually goes to court and deposed to affidavit and says that what Speaker did amounted to a coup d'etat. And I keep saying that the Supreme Court agrees to such use of language. They didn't find it scandalous enough to have that portion of the affidavit struck out. How do you say things like that under oath before the highest court of the land?
Do you feel these personalities, Afenyo Mark and the Attorney General Godfred Dame, have disrespected the Speaker of Parliament?
Time without number. time with that number. At the least opportunity, they go after the speaker.
Let me ask you.
And nobody speaks for the speaker, so they always have a field day.
Well, the speaker at least had his press conference on the 6th day of this month. But
Yeah,
hold.
because you don't find that as unusual.
Right. Let me also ask you, has the speaker also been disrespectful towards, at least, let me say, Afenyo-Markin? You remember Afenyo-Markin talking about the fact that he had been to the house of the speaker on numerous occasions, trying to get him to jaw on the matter and all of that. And the suggestion is that the speaker was simply not willing to engage him.
I will find that extremely unbelievable. Because the leader of parliament, which is the leader of the house, and the speaker have such a cordial relationship that without that, there's no way parliament will function. Now, Afenyo, having become who he is as the leader of the NPP caucus, still has the speaker's ear and audience. And what I find offensive and quite unethical is the penchant on the part of the Honorable Afenyo-Markin to always run to the media and say that I met the speaker in camera, I met the speaker in chambers, and we had ABCD discussions. In-camera discussions, chamber discussions are not for public consumption. You can speak to matters that happens on the floor and take them to the media. But when you leadership, you go to speaker in chambers, you agree on certain things. Even me as a member of parliament, I'm not supposed to hear. It's on need to know basis. So how would the speaker have confidence in you to keep discussing matters with you in confidence?
Are you suggesting parliamentarily such behavior is unethical?
It's unparliamentary. It's unparliamentary. Because when you come to me in chambers, we hold discussions and you are in the media, whether it's true or not, you are broadcasting them. Why would you want to come to me in my home and come and hold any discussion?
On this
Even
point,
even if the point Afenyo makes is accurate, if I were the speaker, I would have done the same. I will reject you. If you want to meet me, come to me in the office.
Okay, on this point of disrespect, again, yesterday in court, the speaker did not have representation. Thaddeus Sorry and the junior lawyers from his firm, Sorry at Law, were nowhere to be found. The AG brought up the issue that signaled disrespect for the apex court, which some justices, two of them, also reacted to, and that was not, there was no proceeding on that. How do you feel about that?
I feel sad. The AG always has this attitude of inciting the court against other lawyers, or inciting the General Legal Counsel against other lawyers who hold contrary views.
I think it's Justice Mariama who...
He did that just last week when he went to give some lecture and practically was engendering the General Legal Counsel to proceed against some lawyers. Then you go to court as the leader of the bar and suggest that a lawyer for speaker failed to appear and therefore it amounted to disrespect, when he knows that lawyers will act upon instructions. Who knows that since the appearance of Senior Thaddeus Sorry in court the last time, maybe the speaker has instructed that please don't go again. Maybe.
Some say, in fact, that the speaker shouldn't even have been joined to this suit, and that maybe the AG, in fact, should be represented.
Indeed. So if the speaker has withdrawn his instructions to Thaddeus, what would Thaddeus be doing in court?
But the point too is, why start the process and then, I wouldn't say surreptitiously, but abruptly disengage, especially when you started appearing before the apex?
This whole process is an abrupt one.
No, but I'm asking,
why
start and then not
this whole process is an abrupt one, if you can appreciate it that way. So speaker's presence or non-presence in court, his representation in court or not, I think the Attorney General ought to have kept quiet after making his submissions. But again, he was inciting the court to perhaps give some orders directed at Thaddeus Sorry. And the court saw through it. The court was trying to give him a guide, but he was insistent until another judge had to join in. That no, they leave that matter for us. Why are you trying to incite us against another lawyer? Leave that for us. So they advised him that as the leader of the bar, call your colleague and find out why he didn't appear in court.
And he said that, in fact, on Friday or so, they had checked on whether processes had been filed by Tadiosori.
Yes. So why didn't he precede his submission with that? Before making those scandalous comments about the lawyer? So it goes to his motive for which he was making those submissions before the court. Very, very unethical conduct. But hey, he is the AG. I am not. So.
But well, even the AG has to work within a certain remit.
Thank you.
Right? And I'm not suggesting anything by saying that, but the way you sounded, he's the AG and you are not. It shouldn't also sound as though the AG were, because there's no primus inter pares as far as our legal system is concerned.
But he is.
Even the president.
No, he is. No, in terms of practice at the bar, he is the primus inter pares.
No,
That is why
he is the head.
Yes.
Of
no, but
I speak.
Now we are speaking of matters at the bar.
Okay.
So I'm saying that at the
we
bar.
are speaking specifically within the bar.
Yes. So at the bar is the primus inter pares. That is why when you go to court for 2 hours and you are waiting patiently for your matter to be called, as soon as the AG comes, his case will be called.
Okay. I was speaking generally in terms of the law applying.
Yes. As for that
everybody.
one, that's equality before the law. Yeah.
Dr. Osayi-Kwapong, I forecast, I see that this matter is not dying anytime soon, unfortunately, because I don't know, maybe at the very start of this, maybe whether the approach, because you see, there are those who have said that perhaps if, and I say this respectfully, without demeaning Alexander Afenyo-Markin, but there are those, even from the NDC side, who have spoken to me and said that, listen, if Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu were to be the majority leader, we wouldn't be where we are now. And when Evans Mensah spoke to him, he also suggested, and I'm talking about Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, the former majority leader, how different perhaps his approach would have been. Just hold for me before, are you of the same opinion? That perhaps under Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu,
you see, to the extent
he wouldn't have gone the way Alexander Afenyo-Markin has gone.
And I know if I say this, Afenyo will not be happy. But I think that Kyei would have approached this matter quite differently with a much better result. Because Kyei knows that he has an application pending before Speaker in respect of the status of 3 members of his caucus, in respect of the same provision of the Constitution. So these are political issues you will resolve politically, amicably. The judicial resolution of this matter won't yield any fruit. The judiciary can resolve this. All right? So Kyei's approach, with all due respect, given the litany of instances I have witnessed over the past 2 weeks, I am minded to agree with those who think that his approach would have been different, with a better outcome.
Doc, like I was saying earlier, I don't foresee, especially with the new dimension, the new dynamic that has been introduced into this conversation, where the NDC could also trigger those processes and then have those 3 members of parliament who are still in parliament.
They've forgotten that is pending, clearly.
And that could be dealt with by the Speaker on a simple majority vote, and that could also lead to some seats being lost. Do you see any end to this?
I don't. As I mentioned earlier, I was hoping that the end of this matter would come once the court makes its pronunciation and everyone expresses, their disagreement or agreement with the decision, but it quote unquote settles the matter, and we get back to life as we knew it before all of this started. But again, from what Honorable is saying, it appears that depending on what happens to court today, that pending matter from 2 years ago would be resurrected, or at least there will be some call for that to be acted upon.
But it will still depend on who can muster a majority number in Parliament to determine whether or not this will become a major issue.
Right. And the other thing that I've also been asking myself, and again, this is with all due respect to the institution of Parliament and the actors in there, but one of the things I've been asking myself is, if control of Parliament were not at stake, will this matter have generated the kind of, do you see what I'm saying? That if the Speaker had declared those 4 seats vacant, and it didn't alter the composition of Parliament, where the majority still remained Parliament and the minority still remained minority, it wouldn't have resulted, in my opinion, in this impasse that we see. But because it altered the change of the control of the House, is what I believe has fueled this.
Afenyo Markin says he will never sit in the seat of the minority leader because spiritually it is wrong. I found that one interesting. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the late J.S. Mbiti always used to say that the African is notoriously religious, right? That everything has a spiritual and religious meaning to it.
Is this religion or superstition?
All of it. And that's Mbiti's point, that for the African, even if I came into your studio and I sneezed, it wouldn't be an ordinary sneeze. It would have some spiritual, superstitious meaning to it. So when I read the comment, I said, this is, this is just the interplay of religion and politics and superstition, right? That what if I go and sit there and my party loses? But again, it's one of those things that comes with the territory of politics.
I see. Coming back to you, you also filed a process trying to stay the hand of the Speaker in any subsequent actions. What's the status of that?
It's a fresh matter pursuant to Article 99 of the Constitution. So I'm before the High Court.
Because today, of course, 99 of the Constitution will take you to the High Court.
Yes.
It's stated categorically there, which some of you have said should have been the case in this instance. But today, why I pose that question, today the court is ruling on that substantive matter, the declaration of this 4 seats vacant. You were trying to stay the hands of the Speaker. Today, the Apex Court is declaring on this matter. How do you proceed with the High Court when the Apex Court is deciding?
I think the Supreme Court has no power to take the constitutional jurisdiction of the High Court away. They cannot do that.
But in the end, the buck stops with them, doesn't it?
Yes, they cannot do that.
In terms of interpreting the Constitution.
Yes. The interpretation is different from assertion. That's bringing your right to life or invoking the original jurisdiction of the court in this matter. The Supreme Court says, the Constitution says go to the High Court. It can travel all the way to the Supreme Court if an aggrieved party decides to proceed to the court higher up. But for me, the forum convenience to initiate any proceedings on this matter is the High Court, and that's what I've done. So, but let me make the point.
So briefly,
let me make the point that Afenyo Markin saying that on grounds of spirituality, he won't occupy the minority leader's seat is an afterthought, because he had already taken an oath and sworn to affidavits before the Supreme Court and made the point clearly that the NDC minority had become the majority, which by that deposition makes Atuforsen eligible to sit in the majority leader's seat. So by your own words on oath, you have declared yourself.
How did he do that?
Did you check his affidavit in support of the expert application before the
Supreme Court? That's what you're... No, I just wanted to...
Exactly.
That's what you're referring to.
Yes, he has gone to the Supreme Court to say that the NDC minority had now become the majority in Parliament. And he, the majority, had now become the minority. And listed a lot of things that the new majority caucus in Parliament can do including holding parliamentary inquiries, including making his government unpopular.
I now get where you're going.
Yes. So, by your own words, you have declared yourself a minority leader. So, the seat is meant for you. This spirituality thing is an afterthought.
All right.
He will come and occupy it. He should come and do his business.
He will come and occupy the minority.
He will come. Come and occupy it.
He says spiritually it won't work.
From 2025 to he will occupy it. That is if his party retains him as minority leader.
Dr. John Osai-Kwapo, your final words. This battle, I think I'll have to recuse myself. I'll leave the elephants to do it. I will not be grass. So, any final thoughts?
Yes, well, I think I would go back and repeat what I said in the beginning, which is I still believe that the honorables do have various amounts, levels of goodwill for each other. And so despite all of the, what appears to be a lot of acrimony and differences, sometimes sharpened rhetoric from, the Honorable Afenyo-Markin, which I believe hasn't also been helpful to the situation, that when all is said and done, they really will tap into that reservoir of goodwill and say, look, there's a way out of this. Let's end it all and let's just continue with the business of the house.
All right. This is where I don't believe there's anything else. You've said
my final words are that when next we go to Parliament, the Adjournment process, Kennedy Japan process, Henry Cotter process will be triggered.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
We are putting them on.
Let me now go to Kweku Asante, who is standing by from the Supreme Court. Kweku, if you can hear me, what can you report from there?
Yes, so we expect that pretty shortly the Supreme Court will gather in session. I've seen some of the staff of the judges who have already come to move the seats of the judges a bit backwards. That is what is done in anticipation of the arrival of the judges. Already in the courtroom, you can see a number of judges have already taken their seats. The Deputy Attorney General, in the presence of Diana Sunabadapa and Alfred Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu, as well as some senior state attorneys, have already taken their seats. Samuel Atatia, a member of the legal team of Alexander Afenyo-Markin has come in. I just seen Frank Anodom, the majority chief whip. He's also in now, together with other members of the members of parliament from the NPP side. So a number of NPP MPs are now coming, taking their seats. Members of parliament, we expect that a lot of them will come in today, given that today is the verdict that the Supreme Court is expected to deliver as to whether or not the Speaker of Parliament was constitutionally empowered to declare those 4 seats as vacant the way he did on the 18th of October. That is about close to a month ago. But this is the day we get to find out if that was constitutional or not. The Supreme Court have heard arguments already. We have concluded all the hearings. The day is verdict. As soon as that comes, all we expect the case will call and they will discuss. They will the that delivered the chief that presided that is at hearing.
Kweku, we are losing you a bit. Could you reposition yourself and start from about 15 seconds ago?
And then that's and then these are the signals that they get ready.
Well, at least snippets of what we got from Kweku Asante reporting from the Apex Court there. And those are some visuals from the Apex Court. A deputy AG seated there, Madam Asunaba. We do not have any view of Alfred Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu or Godfred Yeboah-Dame, but this is where the chips have fallen, and this is how we are waiting to see what happens. Oh yeah, that is Alfred Kyei-Mensah-Bonsu. I now see him. There he is. And yesterday we saw that he started, and then later Godfred Yeboah-Dame, the AG, came through. And you can also see the Member of Parliament for Old Tafo also seated there And then you have Frank Anodompre also sitting there, and all of them, having that conversation ahead of, the justices of the Supreme Court taking their seats to proceed with the matter. Well, we are taking a breather here, and when we return, when there's some action from there, we'll cross over. But for now, this is where we hang our boots on this conversation. Those who joined us, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, he's a CDD fellow, and Roxanne Nelson Dafeamekpor, he is legislator for South Dine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We're taking a breather. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. We have a surprise package for you in the studio. But before we come in here, we're taking you to the Supreme Court, where today that crucial ruling will be delivered by the justices of the court. We take you now to the Apex Court.
And John Bosman.
Hello, my ladies, and please the court. Godfred Yeboah Dami Yatendra, appearing with Alfred Tia Yeboah, Deputy Atendra. Miss Dina Asunabadapa, Deputy Atendra. Dr. Sylvia Adusu, Chief State Attorney. And Ms. Victoria Adoti, State Attorney.
Principal State Attorney.
No,
sorry.
Chief State Attorney.
Chief State Attorney, I'm sorry for
yes.
And
Ms. Victoria Adoti.
Alote?
Adoti, State Attorney.
By court, in a majority decision of 5-2, Lovelace Johnson JSC and Amadou Tanko JSC dissenting on the issue of jurisdiction, the plaintiff's action succeeds. The full reasons and orders of the court shall be filed with the registrar by close of day tomorrow, 13th November 2024. This is the judgment of the court.
Most graceful.
All rise.
What didn't you understand?
Welcome back. So on the back of that movement in the Apex Court, of course, no decision has been arrived at in respect of those 4 seats. But you just saw the justices of the court moving out, likely to determine what their ruling will be. But let me go to Kweku Asante, who will now give us a scope on what exactly has been happening. Kweku, what's happening?
Well, I think the court has spoken in very clear and emphatic terms. And of course, it must be the only thing anybody has to do is to respect the constitution. That is the mark of a civilized democratic order. It leaves no room for any argument whatsoever. And the majority decision, very big majority, clear majority, 5-2. It's not as if it was a narrow majority, 3-4 or 4-3, that anyone can say, well, there is some room for kind of review or anything at all. But the point I'm making is that whenever the court speaks, it's such a clear and emphatic order. Even if it's a very narrow majority, that's the decision of the court, and that decision must be respected. And I'm saying that it will result in a degeneration of our society and a destruction of our democratic order for anybody at all to refuse to comply with orders of the Supreme Court. And I think that's non-negotiable. It's something that we must all respect. I've heard some statements by certain political actors to the effect that the case ought to be withdrawn and that there ought to be negotiation and all that. I'm quite surprised because indeed, firstly, I did not hear such expression of a willingness to negotiate and all, or maybe such instruction to the speaker or direct suggestion to the speaker for negotiation and all, when the speaker started embarking on this act. And I think that, for me, it's very important that the Supreme Court ruled upon this matter because it is something that had been occurring in this country. A tendency for it to occur really was there. A tendency for it to occur again was there. It's necessary, or it was necessary, that the Supreme Court came to this clear conclusion and determination of the matter. The meaning of Article 97, Clause 1, paragraphs G and H. And I think we must all respect it.
What do you expect to happen in Parliament? Parliament is currently on break. What do you expect to happen with the Speaker of Parliament in particular also?
I think the Speaker of Parliament himself, to start with, indicated in his address to the press last week that the case raised very serious legal issues. Those were serious legal issues and matters bordering on governance in the country. And first, so I must express my shock, utter shock, at this refusal to even file a process. If indeed the Speaker of Parliament himself recognized that the matter raised serious legal issues, as he said to the media last week, where else would you address legal issues but in the court of law? Where else would you have such a definitive pronouncement on the so-called serious legal issue that the Speaker himself recognized in his press statement, done by the Supreme Court of Ghana? So as for the Speaker of Parliament, indeed, is law-abiding, I've known for a very long time, to comply with the decision of the Supreme Court. As I said, it is non-negotiable in every civilized society. when an order of the court is given, no matter how highly placed or lowly placed the court is, even if it's a magistrate's court, you have to obey until it is set aside.
Speaking of knowing him, he.
What does it relate to this? The American Constitution itself, very thin, as we all know. Yet, the Supreme Court, that Constitution has survived over 200 years. I think that, of course, there are certain provisions in the Constitution that I think that ought to be amended, and I've expressed my views on it to the media. Article 78, Clause 1, which enjoins the President to appoint majority of his ministers from Parliament, ought to be amended. There ought to be that flexibility. I think that certain institutions, for example, the Electoral Commission, NCC, and what have you, the appointment of their heads has to be with the prior approval of Parliament. But I don't think that it calls for a complete overhaul of the Constitution. And indeed, this Constitution is very strong. And it is one Constitution which even goes as far as prescribing consequences of a failure to carry out the Supreme Court order. So the Supreme Court order, the consequences are set out clearly in Article 2, Clauses 3, 4, and 5 of the Constitution, that any person to whom an order of the Supreme Court is directed shall duly carry out same. And a failure to carry out such an order, of course, has the consequences of a criminal punishment. In the case of the president, will even result in the president and vice president, will result in removal from office.
And finally, do you expect the Speaker of Parliament to recall Parliament on his own volition after this ruling, given that the court has spoken in such a wide manner?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I said, it's an emphatic determination by the court on the matter, and the Speaker of Parliament has no option but to comply. I mean, I think that we must stop giving with one hand and taking with the other. As I said, it really amounts to double standards and an exercise in contradiction. For the Speaker of Parliament, in his address to the media, say that the case raises such serious legal issues and matters body on governance and all that, and then refuse to take back. So this country refuse to take part in the proceedings. I think in this country, we must recognize some people for who they are and what they do. This hypocrisy and double standards must cease. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter on all matters in the country, including an interpretation of the Constitution. Indeed, it's the only court solely sees legislation to pronounce on the meaning of relevant provisions of the Constitution. And the Constitution means what the Supreme Court says it means, and nothing more. It is the same in America, and as I said, America, United Kingdom, and all advanced democracies, that is the order that they respect. There's no way a Supreme Court would give a decision in America or United Kingdom, and then the Prime Minister, apart from expressing his disagreement with the decision, or the President of America, of course he has a freedom of expression to express his disagreement with the decision, but he has no option but to comply, and they usually comply, and that is it.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. We'll get pretty shortly to the leadership of the majority in the House who are here. We'll get to the majority leader shortly. So we'll get to the majority leadership shortly. Take a microphone. So the court has, by a 5-2 majority, affirmed the reliefs that were being sought by the majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, in his action before the court. We should remind you that the panel is CJ Tokono, Mariam Owusu, Avril Lovelace Johnson, Kwame Asiedu Adibo, Amadou Tanko, Yao Dakun Asare, and another. And so 2 persons dissenting in the presence of Avril Lovelace Johnson and Justice Amadou Tanko by way of jurisdiction. And then the 5 other judges who have been hearing these interlocutory matters have ruled that the majority leader's action in court must succeed. We will hear from him pretty shortly as the Attorney General himself wraps up his interview with the media, as we get to hear finally from the leadership of the NPP persons who are also in court. Let's get back to listening to the Attorney General.
And I did not raise any issue with that back to appeal. I did not say I'm not going to respect the decision of the court. I respect the decision of the court, and until the decision is set aside by the higher court, which is the Supreme Court, that decision will remain binding on all. So we must stop this hypocrisy and exercises in contradiction. As I said, that when our reaction or attitude to court rulings depends on how palatable we deem it. We cannot react to decisions based on how palatable we deem it, and that's exactly what is happening.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. We'll hear from the majority leader also, who is just descending to finally get to hear from him in terms of how this entire case has traveled so far. The leader Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin about to give us a word. Majority Leader, the court 5-2 affirming all the reliefs that you are seeking. Your initial reaction to this?
So my friend from is it Channel? I want to know your position today. No, I'm just asking you. I want to know your position today.
You accept that he's not
No,
the majority
I just
leader.
want us to have clarity for the purposes
House.
of education. What is your position now? I want to know. What has the court said? That what? No, yes, we are educating ourselves. You know, I want that we are educating ourselves. We are not fighting. We are educating ourselves. So I want to know from you. No. We need to get into the. So what is it? I want to know. That's what. That is so. I mean, I just wanted clarity on this matter. We can only thank God, and also it's a moment for all of us to rally around the choice we made in 1992, democracy. Democracy requires decency, and that is the path the MPP majority caucus took to ensure that we do right to the law. Nothing more, except to say that we expect our colleagues on the other side, including Mr. Speaker, to respect the outcome of this case so that we move on as a nation. All we have is the peace of the country. All we have is our democracy. And in West Africa and in Africa as a whole, Ghana shines in the eyes of the people in terms of democracy. So this is another feat we have achieved, and we must celebrate it. It's not a matter of MPP against NDC. It's a matter of constitutional, interpretation, and the court has given its verdict. We should all respect it and move on. Thank you very much. I think
do you expect the Speaker to recall Parliament on its own volition, given this emphatic?
Let the lawyers deal with the issues of law. I think that all we want is peace in the country, and we chose peace. And today we've achieved peace. That is all we say.
The Speaker has no choice. He has to abide by the ruling of the Supreme Court. He has no choice. He has no choice. Absolutely no choice.
What's the way forward?
The way forward is for him.
Please. The interesting,
the Supreme Court is spoken.
The interesting thing about today's matter is that as far back as 1968, after the first Republican Constitution, we decided as a nation, which can be seen by the proposals of the Constituent Assembly, that two things will happen. The first thing that we decided was that we will have the Judiciary interpret the Constitution. In fact, they said two things. They wanted the Judiciary to be the ultimate arbiter of what the Constitution says, and they also wanted the Judiciary to be able to give advisory opinions. The people of Ghana rejected the second suggestion and said that the Judiciary should not give advisory opinions, but the Judiciary is the body that should interpret the Constitution. The second thing that is important in that entire the 1968 proposals was that they decided that Parliament would not be supreme. The supremacy of Parliament was not accepted. What they decided was that Parliament will be under the Constitution, and so all our constitutions since then have followed this position. In fact, the 1992 Constitution in Article 1 says that sovereignty lies in the people. That sovereignty was expressed when the people, through a referendum, voted to bring this constitution into force. And the constitution tells us that the supreme law of Ghana is the constitution. Everybody else is under the constitution. Nobody is above anybody. Everybody has his role. And so the fact that the Supreme Court interprets the constitution does not mean that they are above anybody. In fact, there are judges sitting on the bench. One of them is my classmate. My juniors are on the bench. But once they go and sit there, even if it's my own child sitting there, I cannot but bow and give the person respect, not for the person, but for the office and for the law. And we expect every other Ghanaian to also respect the law. We don't all agree on what is said and what is done. There are several times that I've disagreed with what is said and what is done. But because of the respect for the rule of law, because of the respect for the Constitution, we just keep quiet and follow the law, hoping that if we don't agree, another opportunity will come that we'll be able to express ourselves. So what has happened today, we have not seen the reasons. We are happy because we came to court because we believed that the right thing was that the people had not by their action vacated their seats. So what has happened to them, we are happy about it. Tomorrow, the reasons will come out. And when the reasons come out, as lawyers, then we can look at the reasons and what the court has said, and then we can discuss it. In fact, the fact that the court has ruled in your favor does not mean that you agree with the reasons. You might decide that even the reasons some of the judges gave, you do not agree with it. Two of the judges talked about jurisdiction. We don't know what they said, so tomorrow we will know. And when we know, we will prepare to answer more questions in detail. But as was said by the leader, as far as I'm concerned, today democracy has won, constitutionalism has won.
And Babi has lost.
No, nobody has lost. Democracy has won, constitutionalism has won, and nobody has lost. Every one of us is holding every position that we hold in trust for the people of Ghana. We don't hold it in our own capacity. When you are an MP, when you are a minister, when you are a president, when you are a speaker, when you are a chief justice, you hold it in trust for the people of Ghana, and you are under the law. Your time will come and you leave the position, and that is what we must all write. So the 4 MPs have been reinstated. They must come to Parliament, and as far as I'm concerned, if the status quo ante is brought back, then this whole dispute that people call him caucus leader, whatever, it should stop from today. We have a majority, which is MPP, and the majority leader is Honorable Alexander Afeyo-Maki.
Thank you. A lot of reactions that are coming in, and we will try and see if we can talk to a few more MPs who are here as to how this ruling has gone. Farouk Alumama, I mean, this has been a torturous journey. You in the NPP have insisted that the Speaker of Parliament's actions were unlawful. Live on Joy News, what do you make of how the Supreme Court has ruled?
I think today has been a significant day for us, and the judgment speaks for itself. I think 2 judges had issues with the judicial and other people. So today is a day for democracy, and it says that whatever we are doing as Ghanaians, we should respect the law. The Constitution of Ghana, 1992 Constitution, is the biggest, and we must respect it. No winner, no loser, and today democracy has been reinstated, and we expect the Speaker to act as such.
Elefante, that we the same bow, we shall win to save Ghana. We have won to save Ghana. We have won to save Ghana. The Elephantes are winning symbol. We have won to save Ghana.
Democracy is won. The dictatorship is lost. Eshi radu radu radu. Eshi.
Why do you say that Bagman has lost when this was really a constitutional matter? He has come in.
Tendencies he was beginning to exhibit. It's been nipped in the bud by this August House, the Supreme Court. My young child will say, I'm sorry. No, my very good friend, my brother.
Okay.
But he was behaving very badly and unconstitutionally.
Right, so some photos will be taken, but the big news coming in from the Supreme Court, the judgment has just been handed down live here. You've watched proceedings. By a 5-2 majority decision, the Supreme Court has decided that the declaration of 4 seats as vacant was unconstitutional. The 7-member panel presided over by Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono, Mariam Owusu, Avril Lovelace Johnson, Kwame Asiedu Adibu, Amadou Tanko, Avril Lovelace Johnson, and Jao Dakun Asare. They came to the conclusion by majority decision that these persons really ought to return to Parliament, and they do not believe that the Speaker of Parliament acted in a way that affirms the Constitution. And so there are 2 members of the panel who dissented, that is Avril Lovelace Johnson and Justice Amadou Tanko, who ruled that given the way matters went, given how matters went, they disagree with the fundamental conclusions of the court. And so 5-2, they have actually dissented on that, and we'll get more reaction from the Supreme Court. KTM in particular has some strong words about the Speaker of Parliament, who he says has acted in a way that has dictatorial tendency. We'll get to him. Why are you saying that the Speaker of Parliament has acted with dictatorial tendency?
I mean, the Speaker of Parliament is supposed to be the custodian, custodian of the Constitution. This man decides that he would not respect the Constitution. Not only that, he would not respect the apex court of the land. It's outlandish. I haven't seen anything like that in my life. And I heard this argument. He respects the supremacy of the Constitution, but he doesn't respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. What does it mean? So what do you expect should happen now? So that is what somebody is saying. What do I have against Babi? My very good friend. Everybody accepts. I mean, he's a class prefect. You all know that. But the point is that I do not agree that a person of his caliber would not respect the ruling of the Supreme Court. Now it has been very crystally put by the Supreme Court. The motion, filed by our majority leader of the House has succeeded. The Speaker Babing has absolutely no choice now to comply. Tell Ato and his followers to move back to where they originated onto our seat. We expect that to be done without fail. That's how simple this matter has become. Babing must learn to respect the authority of the Supreme Court. Who's up?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
One question for you.
Which one?
Why did you aid Professor Michael Kyei to flout the...
I've said this. This matter has come out and we talked about it so much. We say, how did I aid? Are you now making a personal attack? How did I aid? I do not even remember that particular ruling. I've made the point many times. At that time, we had about 169 or so members on our side. Nobody recalls that. Not question of not carried. I don't even remember. It is until this matter came up that the issue came up. And consistently, I've said that, well, fine, he may have so he was wrong. He was wrong. But the matter didn't get the opportunity of surfacing in the Supreme Court. Now it has. There was this matter in one of these judgments, and I think it was Justice, I think Francois, in one of the famous cases. He said that, well, look, everybody is saying that this was wrong, it has been perpetuated, and nobody said anything, and so that remains the law. It is not. All right, there was there's an error, there was an illegality, it has been perpetuated. Now somebody is raising their hand. The hand is up now. Nobody can.
Kobinata Hiro Hammond, popularly known as KT Hammond, perspiring, huffing, puffing, and enjoying the victory so far. Some intense moments there, but of course the Apex Court ruling by 5-2 majority that indeed the actions of the Speaker were unconstitutional. And it's interesting because one of my viewers this morning had actually put it up that there was going to be a 5-2 ruling. I wonder where he got that permutation from. And to boot, some trivial moments from, I took a bit of exception to that, and I'll put it out when Afenyo Markin, the majority leader, took on the journalist from City, asking him those questions, as though he were a justice of the court. But trivial moments, like I said. Let's come into the studio now as we conclude our conversations today, because we have an interesting team here. 4 of them. I don't know whether you recognize these young gentlemen and young lady sitting here, but these are from the Keta Senior High Technical School, and they were in the latest National Science and Math quiz. They were in the finale, the grand finale, and after Fansipim and Ogasco, they were in 3rd position. Good morning. Thank you for joining the conversation. Good morning. I know you would have wanted to be first, but there are others who say that, well, you've been to this place about 3 occasions, and that the next time, or is it 3rd time lucky, right? Yeah. The next time you get here, you would win. Joining the conversation, we have Frederick Ajavo Sowalo, Clinton Edem Adosu, Perpetual Sefako, all of them joining the conversation. Let me start with you, Perpetual. What was the experience like being a member of this team? There was Lamini from, was it 2 years ago or so, or last year? 2021. And she did amazing things. You also came through and you just blew everybody away. I was just trying to find out from her what her strongest area was. She said all of them, but physics apparently is one of your go-to areas. What was the experience like for you?
It was an interesting experience for me, and particularly throughout training. So we've gone through training, and there were highs and lows, the fun moments, the ones that you'd even cry, things like that. So for me, it's been an interesting journey, an interesting experience.
I see. There's also, of course, Chris Adabla, who's also a contestant. And I'll come to Frederick. Again, this took a lot of your time. What was it like preparing for this contest? Yes.
Yeah, it's as she said.
Please speak up, Frederick. Speak up.
As she said, there were fun moments, and then there were sad moments as well. The whole journey has been tough. It was a year-long program. We have been preparing since last year, November, till before the nationals. You can see that's a long period. So throughout that time, we were isolated, or quarantine, let me say it like that.
So NSMQ quarantine.
we weren't interacting much with outside world, like media, what's happening in Ghana. So we are all focused on getting to the national stage and answering questions, all questions as
well as you could.
Yeah.
And you did that. You went all the way to the finals. Let me just find out from Chris and Clinton as well. Getting to this point, I know you wanted to win, right? Those moments when you were sitting there and you were being grilled and some of those questions were coming and you couldn't answer, how did it feel like?
For me, I would say we had a quote that we normally use that it's not over until it's over.
Right.
So, as being...
So the last question.
Exactly. So, for some contests or some trials we've been to, some of these instances happen where like we win in the last round or something. Not until the last question has landed, you are not crowned the winner. So like it wasn't any.
It wasn't anything.
Exactly. Really. Not until it's over. It's not over.
Okay. Yeah. So before we conclude, right, we're a bit pressed for time, but life after NSMQ. We see Lamini, who some of your colleagues, and I'm not just talking about your school, have gone on to many institutions. You got a scholarship, but you want to read medicine, so you're going to pursue other things. Perpetual, what are you hoping to become? What assistance do you seek? And I'll ask the same question to all of you. I'll come to Perpetual before I come to you.
So I'm hoping to become a cardiologist.
A cardiologist?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think assistance would be scholarships. Right, for my colleagues.
Scholarships for all of you?
Yes.
Which institution are you hoping to study in?
Harvard.
Harvard. Is it because of Lamine?
Oh, no. They offer...
why not MIT?
Education.
Why not?
Well, MIT is an engineering school.
Okay.
I'm not going for engineering. So
but they do medicine as well, don't they?
No, I'm not sure about that. Oh, okay, they do, but no, I prefer...
you prefer Harvard?
Harvard, yes.
Okay, for you?
Yeah, I'd like to read computer engineering. Probably.
Computer engineering?
Yeah, MIT.
At MIT? Okay, and for you?
I'd like to go into mechanical engineering, but...
Mechanical engineering?
Yes, exactly, but an aspiration in the future is to be a farmer.
To be a
farmer.
Okay, you want to do mechanical engineering, but you also aspire to be a farmer.
Yes, please.
That's great. How about you?
Yeah, I also want to go into computer science and engineering, Caltech and then MIT. One of them will be fine.
Caltech or MIT. I see. Interesting choices. I'm just curious. Why aren't you mentioning KNUST or any such institutions? Is it only the Ivy League ones that can get you to fulfill your aspirations? I'm throwing it to anyone who wants to answer.
Those ones are plan B. Like plan A is for the Ivy League schools. So plan B is in case we don't get those Ivy League schools, then plan B is KNUST.
Okay, so you hear the plan B is the KNUSTs and the others. Of course, they are aspiring. They can feel free to dream big as possible. I'll leave you any final words you have for our guests before we go. Briefly, 10 seconds each. I'll start with you.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. For me, I'll say shout out to my parents and all those who are helping us and who are wishing to help us at this moment. and that we are very grateful. And also, I would like to thank Cargill Ghana Limited.
Okay.
When I was in basic school, they gave me a particular scholarship, specifically Mr. Richard Anderson. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you. You?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my parents for all the support they've given us throughout their training, and also the past students for helping us throughout this journey.
All right, Perpetual.
So shout out to my parents, friends, family, and also our coaches for training us and bringing us this far.
All right. And finally?
Thanks to parents as well, family, friends, coaches, everybody, and also advice to people that are under me that they should keep on going. They should set a target for themselves and they'll get it.
All right. Thank you so much, Frederick, Clinton, Perpetual, and Chris for joining the conversation. They have also been accompanied by Dr. Benjamin Boafo, their coach. He's also an alumni rep. We celebrate you. Congratulations. Yeah. Well, that's how we cap off the conversation this morning on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thanks for watching. Up next, we serve you Joy News Desk. Stay for that.